It all kicks off with a shadowy figure shrouded in a red aura of pure rage and power. Then, we see the face of a furious man using his strength to shatter the chains that bound him. In that moment, he unleashes an explosion of red energy that sends everyone flying back with its overwhelming power. A few guards from some faction watch the scene with looks of contempt and arrogance, ready for a fight. The man now floats in the air, his hands ablaze, staring down the warriors who are preparing to face him. Suddenly, a masked young man shows up and asks what he thinks he's doing, calling him a fraud. The warrior is stunned by the accusation and wonders what in the world this guy is talking about. Furious, he charges forward, yelling that a pampered bookworm like him wouldn't know a thing. The move is incredibly fast and powerful, clearly meant to finish the young man in a single blow. But the guards act first, intercepting the man's attack and striking him from all sides at once. The coordinated assault is too much for him, and he collapses to the ground, defeated by his opponents. One of the young warriors watches the scene with a cold, distant gaze, as if nothing had happened. The smell of blood fills the air after the violent clash that just took place. The scene then shifts to a lone man standing in the rain in front of a large temple. The guy seems relieved and comments that the smell is finally starting to fade. It's explained that those born with the heavenly martial body have all 5 senses sharpened to an extreme degree. This is a talent that defies the logic of ordinary men, born only once every 100 years. His eyesight is so incredible that, if he chooses, he can focus on minuscule things from a great distance. For example, he can observe every single detail of a single raindrop falling from the sky. And with his sharp hearing, he overhears 2 men complaining about a scholar who's snooping around the Alliance. One of them grumbles that this scholar is stirring up trouble everywhere instead of letting them eat in peace. The other wonders if the guy can hear them, but his buddy doubts it because of the heavy rain. But the narrator confirms that yes, he can hear from great distances, even with all the noise from the rain, and it's revealed that among all his abilities, the most terrifying of all is his keen perception. He then remembers passing the civil service exams at 19, thinking he was just smarter than most, but it was only after joining the Murim Alliance's inspection bureau that he discovered he had the heavenly martial body. With this gift, he could easily interpret and master secret manuals, getting drunk on power and feeling fearless. However, the martial arts world was already teeming with powerful masters everywhere. He quickly realized he'd be a target, and since he preferred books to brawls, he decided to hide his true abilities. Now, he walks through the rain, wondering what he'll become in the future, or which path he will follow, but he knows that the person he is today doesn't have that answer yet. In this moment of uncertainty, he remembers his mother and misses her dearly, especially on this day. The scene then shifts, and now we see the young scholar standing inside an imposing hall with his arms crossed. He asks the patriarch of the Namgang clan why he was summoned, and the man confirms his identity as Scholar Chin. From the shadows emerges Namgang Hak, the clan leader, who comments on the young man's calm demeanor. It's revealed that Namgang Hak is a legendary figure, and the world has given him a very important title. He's known as one of the 3 heavenly swords, and the young Cheon confirms he already knew that. The patriarch unleashes an overwhelming blue aura, showing exactly why he's so famous and powerful. Cheon feels intimidated, as it seems the man can see right through him, and wonders what he wants. The patriarch approaches, and says he's going to be straight with the young scholar. Cheon panics, wondering if the patriarch has discovered his secret about the heavenly martial body. The clan leader then begins to speak slowly, cranking up the tension in the air. At this moment, the young scholar grows anxious, waiting to hear what the powerful man has to say. But to his surprise, the patriarch desperately begs him to turn his youngest son into a decent human being. The young man is completely floored by the unexpected request from the great master, who is bowing in respect. Confused by the situation, Cheon doesn't understand a thing as the clan leader reveals he's already had him investigated. Namgang Hak explains that he heard about the young man's intelligence and insight from the head of inspection. He also heard that the scholar managed to completely rehabilitate a famous troublemaker in the Alliance. Cheon tries to downplay the story with Pangso Lin, saying it was all just a misunderstanding. The patriarch then changes the subject, revealing he knows Cheon gave up a position at the palace to care for his mother. The young man bows in silence, confirming that the man before him knows about his personal life. With that, Namgang makes him an offer he can't refuse, promising to cure his mother's illness if he helps him. Cheon remains silent for a moment, head bowed, pondering the incredible proposal. He stays quiet for a few seconds, thinking about the offer that could change his life forever. However, the young man expresses his doubt, saying his mother's illness isn't something common. The clan leader replies that he already knows the details and that the clan's divine doctor will take care of her. The scholar is shocked to hear about the legendary figure and wonders if he's really here. A confident smile appears on the patriarch's face, confirming the young man's hopes. Namgang then adds another condition, asking him to also educate his youngest son. In exchange, he promises to send Cheon wherever he wants, be it the Hanlim Academy or the Imperial Palace. Cheon is stunned by the offer but realizes he could have a successful career and get the best treatment for his mother. He then smiles with determination and tells himself that no matter how terrible the patriarch's son is, he'll turn him into a human. Just then, Cheon hears someone shouting insults from a nearby building and walks toward the commotion. Inside, a young servant girl screams in fear after being drenched with a bowl of cold water. The culprit is a young man with red hair, who is angrily complaining that she can't do anything right. He keeps shouting that he asked for a wet towel, not a bowl of water, while the servant apologizes. The young man says he's already on edge about a duel and now has to deal with trash like her, leaving the girl terrified. But just as he was about to do something, Cheon enters the room, surprising both the young master and the servant. The scholar calmly walks into the room, fan in hand, observing the situation. His gaze is serious and analytical as he sizes up the patriarch's son for the first time. The young man, whose name is Murim, arrogantly asks who this guy standing there is. He quickly deduces from his appearance that this must be his new writing tutor, and Cheon looks back at him calmly. The scholar then confirms that the patriarch assigned him as his tutor and slowly approaches. Murim gets annoyed and wonders why his father keeps doing these pointless things. With a mocking smile, he complains that the patriarch keeps sending him useless, worthless scholars. Cheon thinks the kid's speech is crude and shallow, but he remembers what the patriarch told him. He recalls the clan leader's words about the problems with his youngest son. The patriarch had said the boy was uneducated and had many character flaws. Suddenly, the bowl the young master was holding is thrown to the floor, shattering into pieces. The servant flinches in fear as back turns to Cheon with a furious glare and curses at him. Cheon notices that the boy doesn't hide his emotions and gets angry easily, while says he hit a nerve. The servant watching the argument stays silent, completely terrified by the tension between the two. With a smirk, says the scholar is brave and that he'll give him credit for his spirit. He then states with a serious look that no one has ever dared to speak to him. Namgang that way before. The young master proposes that if Cheon doesn't run away by the end of the day, he'll acknowledge him as his master, and the scholar accepts. However, the tutor suggests they leave some proof of the promise, since words are easily forgotten. Murim is surprised by the idea of a contract and sarcastically comments on the scholar being so meticulous. Then he agrees to write the contract, saying he'll even make 10 if needed, and goes to get the materials. The young man thinks the new tutor is naive and doesn't understand what this means, but he finds it interesting. Cheon, in turn, decides to provoke him a little more to test him and adds a wager to the contract. Holding the brush, calls the scholar a piece of work, but accepts the idea of a bet with a smile. The tutor smiles back, realizing the young master loves a good competition and a real challenge. Reveals his wager, saying he doesn't need money, but if he wins, Cheon will be his slave for a year. Cheon finds the condition a bit childish, but accepts the challenge without hesitation, as it seems like fun. After the contract is signed, compliments Cheon's calligraphy, acknowledging that he's a true scholar. He then tells the new master to follow him, as he's going to personally teach him a valuable lesson. With a maniacal grin, the young man says he's going to teach him about the cruelty of the world, leaving the servant worried. With that, he dashes off, leaping out of the room at high speed to start his first lesson. Chien watches the scene and thinks the kid is like a child, gets angry easily but genuinely enjoys everything. The scene then shifts to a street where Baek seems to have gone, and someone orders a bowl of noodles. With a mischievous grin, Baek wonders how he's going to fix that jerk's rude behavior, all while Chien watches him. The young master then runs down the street, looking for a victim for his first lesson about the world. His expression is wild and full of glee as he prepares to show his true colors. Suddenly, he approaches a burly man who had his back turned and stares at him with a strange smile. Without warning, Baek lands a powerful punch on the man's back, catching him completely by surprise. The impact is strong, and the warrior is sent flying forward, completely stunned. The man turns around furiously, yelling to know who's there and what just happened, but he's confused when he sees the young master standing behind him with a mocking smile on his face. The warrior doesn't understand what happened and questions the reason for the sudden attack. Baek then points to Chien and says he must have a reason, so he'd better ask the scholar. The tutor is speechless at the unexpected situation, as he didn't expect to be dragged into it like this. The young man finds it hilarious to see the scholar so flustered and thinks he's about to give him a reality check. Right after, the young master flees the scene, leaving his tutor to deal with the furious warrior. The man then turns to Chien and asks if he's the boy's attendant, giving him a chance to explain. The warrior is furious and wonders why on earth that kid hit him like that. With an analytical eye, Chien begins to assess the situation and the man in front of him. He notices the warrior hasn't drawn his sword, even after the insult, and doesn't belong to any known factions. Chien then bows and apologizes, even though it wasn't his fault that this all happened. However, the scholar mentions a detail he saw on the warrior's sword, surprising the man. With a confident smile, Chien deduces that the man must be a warrior from the Manhwa sect. The warrior is shocked and stammers, asking how the scholar knows about his sect. Chien smiles and reveals that he works for the Murim Alliance's Inspection Bureau. With that, he reminds the man that his sect's leader caused great harm to an alliance elder and had to be bailed out. The warrior confirms the story, but gets nervous, realizing this was classified information. The scholar then explains that he personally handled that case, which is why he knows everything. Suddenly, the man realizes the truth and asks in terror if he's the infamous mad scholar Chien. With an amused smile, the tutor asks if his nickname has already spread that far across the land. Baek watches from a distance, confused to see the warrior apologizing and bowing to Chien. He wonders why that man is suddenly acting so submissively. Chien waves to Baek and starts walking with the warrior, who now treats him with the utmost respect. The young master gets furious, not understanding how the situation turned around so drastically. The scholar then explains that the kid stabbed him in the back with this prank and says it must be tough serving such a master. Chien jokes that it's like walking a rabid dog, and the warrior thinks the young master picked a fight with the wrong person. The man then says he suddenly feels sorry for that brat for provoking Chien. From a distance, Baek gets annoyed seeing the two whispering and is dying to know what they're talking about. With a sinister smile, the scholar realizes things are about to get very interesting. The warrior bows to Chien again and says goodbye, while the young master watches everything from afar. Baek is clearly irritated and frustrated with the turn of events. Chien approaches him, fan in hand and a mysterious smile on his face. The young master then confronts him and asks, "What in the world?" he said to that warrior. Chien then turns and starts to walk away, leaving the young master behind with a thoughtful look. With a mocking smile, the scholar turns back and says it was nothing much, just offering an apology. The young man is furious at Chien's calmness and scoffs at his cool, superior attitude. With that, he decides he needs to crush that arrogance and nip it in the bud, because he really doesn't like this tutor. The young man gets even more irritated when he notices Chien has a noble air about him, something he lacks, especially in his face. So, Baek starts thinking of a new plan to teach his new master a lesson right then and there. Just then, he spots a large, fat man peacefully eating noodles at a nearby stall. With an evil grin, he decides he needs to make it crystal clear who he is, right in front of everyone. The young master then clenches his fists, preparing to cause another scene on the street. With his eyes gleaming with rage, he runs towards the man, yelling for him to get out of the way. The bowl of noodles goes flying as the young man attacks the man without any warning. In a swift move, Bake kicks the man in the face, introducing himself as a member of the Namgang clan. The people around are shocked by the sudden violence as the bowl of food falls. Chian watches the scene and wonders why that brat is doing this. The bowl of food smashes onto the ground with a loud thud, scattering everything. The scholar looks at the noodles on the ground, not understanding the purpose of that violent act. The street falls silent for a moment, with everyone staring at the mess the young master made. Bake then turns to Chian with a challenging look and a victorious smile on his face. But suddenly, a group of men approaches with less than friendly expressions aimed at him. One of them glares at the scholar with contempt and calls him academic trash with a smirk. With a confident smile, Bake says he's going to show them the price of challenging him directly. He then points to Chian, placing all the responsibility for the situation on him. In front of all the angry men, he says that from this moment on, the scholar will explain everything. The young master smiles with satisfaction and tells everyone to pay attention to what the tutor has to say. Chian remains silent, surrounded by the men who are waiting for an explanation for what happened. Bake then taunts him, saying that since he's a broke scribe, he doubts he can pay for the damages. The young man gets close to Chian and stares him down with a defiant smile. He challenges him to use his sharp tongue once more to resolve this complicated situation. With a smug grin, he adds for Chian to try and solve the problem himself created. The scholar accepts the challenge, saying that if this is what the young master wishes, he must obey. Without hesitation, Chian steps forward, preparing to handle the situation his own way. He thinks that Bake is being irrational again, but he was already expecting it. The men around are whispering, as they know no one dares to defy the young master's stubbornness. Chian finds himself alone, surrounded by hostile glares, and knows all this irrationality is directed at him. But instead of fear, the scholar's eyes open with a cold, calculating determination. With a powerful shout, he gets the attention of all the merchants on that street. An old lady working at her stall turns around, startled by the scholar's sudden cry. Chian then announces that from this moment on, all the protection fees for this street. He makes a broad gesture, indicating the entire commercial area around him with authority, and to Bake's astonishment, the tutor declares that everything will be managed by the Namgang clan itself. Bake is floored by the scholar's audacity and can't believe what he just heard. With an ironic smile, Chian turns to the merchants and asks if it isn't true that the clan will take care of them. The young master gets furious and shouts that he would never manage a filthy market street like this one. He grinds his teeth in anger, saying that on top of everything, using the Namgang clan's name like that is an outrage. Suddenly, the thugs from the Duzik gang show up and tell the scholar to cut the nonsense. The gang leader approaches and says that this street is managed by them, and he's not giving it up. But Chian just smirks dismissively at the thug's threat, showing no fear. With a mocking tone, he says he was wondering who was doing such a shoddy job here, and finds out it was them. Chian then turns to Bake and challenges him, asking if he feels intimidated by the gang. The young master stammers but says of course not, and that he can do a much better job than them. The scholar slaps him on the back of the head and shouts to the gang if they heard that. He then declares that the protection fee will now be 1 copper coin a month. The merchants are shocked by such a low price and celebrate the Namgang clan's generosity. Bake is confused as the merchants celebrate, believing he's helping them. Suddenly, one of the merchants turns to the young master with eyes full of gratitude. He thanks back, bowing as a sign of respect, leaving the young man even more bewildered. The young master doesn't understand why they're thanking him for something he didn't even want to do. The merchants start praising him, calling him a true hero and the savior of the people. One man shouts that Namgang Bake is the only one who cares about them and their well-being. The crowd begins to chant his name, and the young master smiles, satisfied with the feeling of being adored. Bake gets carried away hearing his name chanted by the crowd, while Chian observes him. The scholar then reveals he's reached a conclusion after analyzing various troublemakers in the Murim alliance. He explains that most of them suffer from a mental illness caused by a lack of attention, and the cure is love. With that, the young master revels in the people's adoration, posing for his new fans. Cheon, on the other hand, looks tired and annoyed with his students' childishness. Meanwhile, two women watch the scene from a nearby tea house, sipping their drinks calmly. They watch the young master show off for the crowd with Cheon by his side. One of them asks about the scholar, and the other says he seems to be a new recruit for the Namgang clan. She's surprised that a young man the same age as the brat can handle him so well. The other woman responds with disdain that he's just a scholar and not worthy of the little princess's attention. But the princess argues that if he can handle the Namgang clan's headache, he's already reached a certain level of mastery. With that, she tells her servant to investigate the scholar, as he might be useful for their mission. Then the princess stands up and suddenly changes the subject with a serious air. She approaches the window with her servant, looking down at the bustling street below. The young woman asks where her companion put the precious object they possess. The servant replies that the object is stored in the mountain fortress, the safest place at the moment. The scene then shifts to a pile of silver coins, with one of them falling onto the heap. Baek throws a bag of coins on the table and demands that Cheon tear up the contract immediately. The scholar complains that a banknote would have been simpler and wonders why he received 100 heavy coins. The young master gets annoyed and shouts that he didn't do it for his convenience, and that he can't stand to watch this anymore. Cheon smiles and says that since he insists, he'll have to watch him count everything, just in case a coin is missing. The scholar then starts to slowly count the coins, one by one, to irritate the young master. Baek gets extremely irritated by the slow pace and threatens to finish him right there. Furious, he storms out of the room, shouting insults and vowing to get revenge on the insidious scholar. Cheon picks up a few coins and comments on how heavy they are, enjoying the moment of peace. The servant, who was watching everything, approaches and compliments the scholar on his intelligence and cunning. She remarks that it's the first time she's ever seen the young master give up his own money so obediently. The servant then whispers, asking if the young master isn't a complete, out-of-control jerk. Cheon looks at her with a gentle, amused smile, neither agreeing nor disagreeing with her statement. The young woman quickly apologizes, saying she must be talking nonsense because of a fever. The scholar says it's all right and offers to perform acupuncture on her. As he knows a little about medicine, the servant is surprised and asks if he really knows medicine on top of everything else. With a sad look, she reveals she has a mother at home who has been bedridden for a long time. Cheon then tells her to gather everyone who needs treatment, as he will take care of them. The young woman bows in gratitude, deeply touched by the scholar's generosity. With a determined look, Cheon says it's now time to seriously begin the brat's rehabilitation. The scene then shifts to the scholar in a library, surrounded by books and paintings. It's revealed that while studying medicine to cure his mother, he discovered two important facts. He holds a book tightly as he remembers his discoveries that changed everything. The first discovery was about his mother's constitution, which possessed something very special. His mother possessed the supreme body of the purple star, a blessing from the heavens that made her unique. Her illness was a result of this condition, which was why no medicine or acupuncture affected her. Fortunately, he discovered that a rare herb called the spiritual dawn flower could cure her. The second fact he discovered was about his own unique and special constitution. Born to a mother with the supreme body of the purple star, he inherited the heavenly martial body. After turning 20, his senses developed rapidly in a surprising way. His body underwent a metamorphosis, becoming perfect for martial arts and absorbing knowledge. However, every special constitution has a flaw, and his carried the fate of the broken army star. Unless he absorbed the energy of 6 stars from the Big Dipper, the star of madness would explode. He would then be consumed by his desires and meet a premature and tragic end. Cheon closes the book with a worried expression, as his time is quickly running out. He realizes that both his life and his mother's depend on his next actions and decisions. To avoid his fate, he needs to find 6 people who possess the energy of the stars. Only then can he prevent his transformation and save his mother from her terminal illness. Suddenly, the scene changes to a rooftop where a violent fight is taking place. A man is thrown forcefully and hits the ground, his face bloodied and bruised. He lies on the ground amidst the debris, completely defeated and powerless. The injured man warns someone that the place is dangerous and that he should run away quickly, but the person he's warning just approaches slowly, showing no fear of the situation. The man then shouts for him to wait, but the mysterious figure continues to approach. The figure is revealed to be Cheon, who says it's easy to find him. Just look for the loudest place. He then calls the young man a brat, who can't control the energy of the star of madness. The young man gets angry at the insult while sloppily drinking something from a bottle. He crushes the bottle and contemptuously asks if the scholar has any idea what he's talking about. With a hateful glare, he reveals himself as Pang So-lin, the son of the Murim Alliance's elder. Cheon calmly opens his fan, unfazed by the problematic young man's identity. With a smile, he introduces himself as a member of the Murim Alliance's Inspection Bureau. The scene then returns to the present, with the servant asking Cheon what he was thinking about. The scholar is startled and says he was just reminiscing about a few things from the past. They are at the Cheongsam Tia house, on the northern road of the Naman clan, a quiet and elegant place. Inside, Cheon is performing acupuncture on several people who need medical treatment. He takes a thin needle from his kit, preparing for another treatment session. With concentration and skill, he applies the needle to the patient while the servant watches. The scholar demonstrates his medical knowledge by applying the needles on his own hand as a demonstration. Meanwhile, the princess's servant and the tea house owner, Hua Young, observe Cheon's work. Xiao Young comments that last time, he handled the brat as if he were a child, and now he's performing acupuncture in a way that surpasses most doctors, showcasing his skill. She concludes that he is indeed someone worthy of the young mistress's attention, and that she was right to investigate him. Cheon continues his work with focus and determination as he writes a prescription for a patient. An elderly couple calls him scholar, thanking him for his care. An old woman offers Cheon some eggs as a thank you, saying she never imagined receiving such treatment. The scholar looks at the eggs, a simple but heartfelt gesture of gratitude from the people he helped. With a gentle smile, he thanks her and says the eggs look fresh and that he will enjoy them. He holds the small bag carefully, valuing the humble yet significant gift. Cheon then offers them money to buy the necessary medicines for their treatment. The old woman is shocked and refuses to accept, saying she can't take money as well. But the scholar insists, saying they are all one family and should help each other since they serve the same master. The patients thank him emotionally, commenting that the scholar is a truly good person. With a warm smile, Cheon says goodbye, telling them it's getting late and they should head home. The patients leave happily, one of them celebrating that he can now move his shoulder thanks to him. Cheon then turns to Wo Yang, the tea house owner, who is watching him with a smile. He thanks her for letting him use the place so late into the night, saying it was a great help. Sure. Young invites him to come back anytime and says that next time she'll prepare a private room for them. The scholar thanks her again and thinks that the tea house owner is younger and more beautiful than he imagined. Suddenly, he imagines himself in an intimate moment with her, which leaves him visibly shocked. With his face burning, he is startled by his own inappropriate and sudden thoughts. Breaking into a cold sweat, he wonders what on earth he was thinking and scolds himself for his wild imagination. He realizes he needs to quickly find the people with the Big Dipper's energy before it's too late. The scene then shifts to night, with Cheon standing in front of an illuminated building. Meanwhile, the princess asks her servant how the investigation into the scholar went. The servant reveals that Cheon was born in Wuhan, and his family was influential but fell from grace. She continues, saying he has a good character but made many enemies by exposing corruption in the alliance. The princess is surprised to learn that he even brought down an elder of the Murim alliance. The servant explains that he was so relentless that he earned the nickname, the Ghostly Scholar. The princess deduces that the alliance sent him to the Namgan clan to get rid of him. The servant adds that there are rumors he knows martial arts and is on the level of the rising stars. Furthermore, there's something about his mother that the princess orders the servant to reveal without hesitation. The young woman explains that after investigating Qin's mother's condition, she discovered she suffers from a severed pulse. With this, the princess wonders if he is the severed sun pulse she has been searching for. The servant seems nervous about her mistress's conclusion, but says nothing to contradict her. The princess reveals she has been searching for this person for 5 years and only has 1 year left to live. Determined, she decides she must find the severed sun pulse and will examine Qin's mother personally. She then orders her servant, who is Hua Young, to continue keeping an eye on the scholar. Meanwhile, Qian walks thoughtfully, wondering where he could find the people with the Big Dipper's energy. He reflects that those born with this energy are destined to reveal themselves in some way. He believes they might already be famous or leaders of some important faction. The scholar continues his solitary walk, lost in thought about his destiny. Suddenly, Mu Baek appears and calls him teacher with an excited smile on his face. Qian remains silent with a tired expression as he sees his student approaching. The young master hands him a book, and the scholar asks what it is. He explains that the book has been passed down in his family for generations, but no one has been able to interpret it. The young master says he's going to try to interpret the book, and Qian asks if it's a martial arts manual. Mu Baek replies that he doesn't know and asks for help from his writing teacher, since that's what he's here for. The scholar becomes suspicious, wondering what that brat is plotting by asking for a favor. After some thought, Qian accepts the challenge, saying he was bored anyway. The young man celebrates and runs off excitedly, saying he's counting on him to decipher the book. Qian is frustrated, realizing the young master is up to one of his tricks again. From a distance, Mu Baek laughs and thinks the foolish scholar believes it's just an ordinary manual. He reveals that if Qian tries to interpret the book like the others, he'll fall into ki deviation. Qian starts reading the book and realizes the crazy brat's trap, who has tricked him. With a furious look, he wonders if the young master just handed him a secret manual of the Namgung clan. Meanwhile, Mu Baek relaxes on the grass, feeling much better after his little revenge. He challenges the foolish scholar to try and decipher the book. Knowing he'll be in for a rough time, the young master thinks with a smirk that the manual isn't just any text, but a trap. He reveals that this martial art has led countless geniuses of the Namgung clan to ruin. By trying to interpret the chants, the meridians get clogged one by one, leading to ki deviation. Mu Baek continues to relax as people pass by, unaware of his evil plan. Meanwhile, Qian is sitting outside, reading the book with focus and concentration. The book contains complex descriptions of the heavenly Tao and the principles of yin and yang. The scholar is fascinated by the profound principles of the supreme martial art contained in the book. He then decides that instead of just reading, he will try to accept the verses with his body. The servant approaches and calls out to him, breaking his deep concentration. She thanks him and says her mother's condition has greatly improved after taking the medicine he prescribed. Qian smiles and says he's happy to hear her mother is feeling better. The servant adds that the others are also amazed by his skills and offers to help. The scholar takes her up on the offer, saying he could really use a little help from her. With the book in hand, he asks if by any chance they have a wooden sword in the lodging. The young woman is confused by the strange and unexpected request from the scholar. Suddenly, Mu Baek appears and furiously asks the servant what she is doing. He yells at her for giving his wooden sword to the scholar, and the servant apologizes, frightened. The young master then draws his real sword and points it at the servant, who is terrified. He comments on how sharp the blade is as the servant cries out for her life. The young man holds the sword firmly, preparing to strike the defenseless girl. With a cruel smile, he abruptly and unexpectedly hands her the sword. He tells her to forget the wooden sword and give the scholar a real one. With an even wider smile, he says that a real sword isn't enough for what he has in mind. He then tells the servant to give the scholar every weapon she can find, leaving her stunned. Now in a training yard, Qian begins to practice with the wooden sword. He moves with fluidity and grace, executing the movements of the martial art from the book. The scholar realizes he doesn't know the name of the martial art, but the chants are mixed with Buddhist ideology. He realizes that to master this art, one must understand the location of the meridians of esoteric Buddhism. The manual was perfectly structured to lead someone into ki deviation, and that was Mu Bak's trap. However, Cheon read an ancient text on esoteric Buddhism in the Alliance's library and knows the exact location of the meridians. With his eyes closed, he concentrates to begin the process of accumulating energy. With a shout, he opens his eyes, determined to master the secret technique in the book. He then accumulates spiritual energy in the blood points of the 7 stars and 7 origins. By doing this, he executes the sword movements with a blue energy flowing around him. He feels he can reach the secret essence of the sword technique with this method. The scholar knows that no one in the Murim Alliance would know this, as the original book was in Sanskrit. He holds the wooden sword firmly, preparing for the next move, and the only person who read that book and understood its secrets was him. He executes the movements with incredible speed and precision, unleashing a wave of energy. Cheon deduces that the creator of this martial art wanted to utilize the power of the spiritual meridians, but by using standard internal energy, the practitioner ended up blocking their meridians and getting messed up. The scholar continues to practice with a pained and strained expression on his face. His eyes glow with power as he struggles to master the complex technique. He grits his teeth, feeling the energy flow through his body intensely and powerfully. The scene then shifts to a beautiful sunset over the rooftops of a temple. Cheon's wooden sword drips with sweat on the ground after the intense training. The scholar breathes a sigh of relief, his body sweaty and clothes torn, but satisfied with his progress. He realizes that even knowing the location of the meridians, trying to inject energy into all of them at once would cause ki deviation. If he revealed this fact to the Namgang clan, he would be kicked out as a thief of martial arts. The scholar then collapses onto the ground, exhausted after the intense training and discovery. With a tired smile, he realizes the clan would never accept that a mere scholar solved an ancient problem. The scene then shifts to Cheon handing a coin to the servant who helped him. The young woman is confused and asks what the money he's giving her is for. The scholar says it's pocket money and that the room is a mess, but the servant offers to clean it. With an awkward smile, Cheon refuses the help and thanks her for her willingness. The servant is surprised that he's thanking her and doesn't understand the scholar's attitude. He then says goodbye, telling her he's going out, and to let anyone looking for him know to come back at night. The young woman stands there with a confused and worried expression as she watches the scholar leave. Cheon walks through the market, observing the merchants and artisans at work in their stalls. He continues to walk through the streets, looking for something specific among the establishments. The scholar heard that the largest herb shop in Afei is around here, and decides to look for it. With his fan in hand, he wonders if the shop will have any herbs that could help his mother. Suddenly, he is spotted by 2 men who point at him and say they've found him. The group's leader approaches with a threatening look, his henchmen following close behind. Cheon turns and faces the men with a calm and indifferent expression. The leader of the Duzek gang introduces himself and asks if the scholar has any idea how much money they've lost. The gang then surrounds Cheon, and the leader asks if the Namgang clan is really going to collect the protection fees. The gang leader says Cheon needs to talk to the clan to let them collect the fees, but the scholar refuses. Cheon tells them to complain to the young Master Namgang and coldly warns them. He advises them not to risk their lives over mere fees and asks if they can handle the clan. The gang leader laughs and says the scholar doesn't know anything, as someone tipped them off about his location. From a distance, Mu Baek smiles mischievously, as he was the one who set up the scholar. Cheon opens his fan and says he can already guess who's behind this. Remaining unfazed, he then walks toward the thugs with a disconcerting calmness, leaving them confused. With a mysterious smile, he asks if they've ever heard of a Murim scholar. Cheon stands in the middle of the thugs with a confident posture and an intimidating aura. He repeats the question with a challenging look, holding his fan as if it were a weapon. The gang leader scoffs, asking if he's going to do a fan dance, and if he even knows martial arts. The thugs close in on the scholar, ready to attack at any moment. The leader then gives the order for his men to give the scholar a tender massage. One of the henchmen steps forward with a cruel smile, preparing to attack Cheon. The thug quickly approaches with his fist raised, ready to crush the scholar. Cheon then says he became certain of something after reading a book and holds his fan firmly. A blue energy begins to emanate from the fan as the scholar prepares to react. The thug doesn't care and continues his attack, cursing Cheon for talking nonsense. But before the punch can land, Cheon uses the energy of the spiritual meridians, which acts like a wave. He blocks the punch with his fan, and an explosion of energy throws the thug to the ground. The thug screams in pain as he's thrown to the ground with impressive force. He lies on the ground in the middle of a crater, not understanding what just happened. Cheon explains that the energy wave amplifies from a single point and spreads outward. The gang leader is shocked and wonders if that punk really learned martial arts. With a dark aura, Cheon invites the gang leader to join the fight as well. The man tries to play it off, saying they didn't show proper respect to the scholar, and it was a misunderstanding. But Cheon cuts him off and tells him to stop pretending, as he still has things to investigate. The gang leader is terrified by the scholar's intensity and begs for a moment. Cheon grabs his face and asks what his name was, and the man stammers that it's Duziki. All the gang members are now kneeling and defeated before the scholar. With a cold glare, Cheon warns them that if he hears about them collecting fees again, he'll break all their bones. He says he's going easy on them because they only collected fees, and the terrified thugs thank him, but the scholar isn't finished yet and says he has more things to investigate with them. The scene then shifts to the Hall of 100 Herbs, a large and imposing establishment. Cheon enters the shop and thinks that if they were stronger opponents, he could have tested the chance better. He looks at his fan, which is in pieces, and realizes that nothing remains intact against the wave of spiritual energy. He stays silent for a moment and wonders if he should make an iron fan, but he quickly dismisses the idea as he's not a martial artist and his power only works against street thugs. Cheon continues to walk through the shop and thinks that his competitive spirit almost shortened his life. He observes the large pharmacy and comments that, just as the rumors say, it's truly massive. Suddenly, Cheon is shocked to see something unexpected in the herb shop. A beautiful white-haired woman appears, holding a tray of herbs with a gentle smile. The scholar is breathless and thinks she is easily one of the 3 most beautiful women he has ever seen. He stands frozen for a moment, completely captivated by the young woman's beauty. Unexpectedly, Mu-Baek is also in the shop and approaches the woman, introducing himself. Cheon wonders what that brat is doing there, as the young master flirts with the woman. The princess says she has a lot of work to do, but Mu-Baek insists on knowing her name. She replies that she is just a doctor who stopped by to get some herbs for her work. The young master then remembers hearing about her and identifies her as Lady Jong So-bin. Cheon watches the scene with suspicion, thinking that no one offers kindness without a reason. Mu-Baek fakes a headache and asks the saintess to examine him, but she declines, saying she's busy. He perks up at her promise to see him later and watches her leave with a goofy smile. The young master is happy to have finally found a beauty worthy of his admiration. He then turns and is surprised to see Cheon there, asking what he's doing. The scholar says he came to buy herbs, and Mu-Baek stammers that he also came for medicine. Cheon looks at the prescription and wonders if the brat needs a potency tonic. The young master wonders why he needs a wisdom broth to improve concentration. The scholar gets furious and asks if this is the kind of art he's passionately burning to study. Mu-Baek then changes the subject and asks if Cheon managed to interpret the manual he gave him. He taunts him, saying the scholar shouldn't have time to wander around if he were deciphering the chants. Cheon replies that he went out because he needed herbs for the interpretation of the book. He says he's deciphered a few verses, but it's difficult, and the young master scoffs at his arrogant posture. Mu-Baek says he had high hopes since he's a Jinshi-level scholar, but was disappointed. With a confident smile, Cheon reveals that he has already finished interpreting some verses perfectly. The young master falls silent for a moment, surprised by the scholar's unexpected revelation. With a mischievous grin, he pretends to believe him and says of course he did. He gets closer and asks the scholar to tell him a little of what he interpreted from the book. Cheon wonders why the young man is so happy and if he really expected him to succeed. The young master pressures him to speak, saying no one would understand a line or two anyway. Cheon remains silent for a moment, preparing to reveal what he discovered. He then begins to recite the verses that appear on the first page of the mysterious book. The scholar accurately explains the principles of yin and yang contained in the manual. Baek is shocked to hear the correct interpretation of the book that no one could decipher. With an excited smile, he realizes that Cheon is truly a Jinchi-level scholar. The young master is impressed and says none of his other teachers showed such interpretive power. Cheon asks in a loud, authoritative voice if he understood the explanation. Baek replies yes with an enthusiastic smile, and the scholar wonders if he's being sincere. The young master approaches excitedly and calls him writing teacher again. Cheon asks what he wants now with a tired and bored expression. The young man reveals that guests from the Juge clan will be visiting the day after tomorrow, and Cheon wonders what that has to do with anything. He says that among them is a friend his age, and Cheon deduces he's referring to the young master Juge Do-1. The young master invites him to the gathering, saying he'll be able to eat well and drink free wine. Cheon realizes the young man wants his help at the gathering of troublemakers and understands why he needed the wisdom broth. He knows that Juge Do-1 is more educated than the others, as his clan has always valued wisdom. The scholar has heard that Do-1 likes to show off at these gatherings using the 4 arts. He scoffs at the young master, wondering how ignored he must be to ask for a favor. With a mischievous grin, he thinks a battle of brats sounds very entertaining. Cheon can't wait to see one troublemaker get humiliated by another and finds it incredibly amusing. Baek pressures him to join the gathering, and the scholar is entertained by the situation. He imagines the 2 young masters arguing and thinks a battle of brats sounds interesting. Suddenly, Cheon feels something strange in his body and clutches his chest in alarm. He staggers back, feeling the effects of the unstable energy in his body. He remembers the princess and realizes he needs to find the energy of the stars quickly. Baek glares at him and asks what he's looking at, saying he can just say no if he doesn't want to go. The scholar then notices that the young master emanates an energy similar to Peng, so uns and decides to check. With a serious air, he says he accepts the invitation, leaving the young man surprised and happy. However, he sets 2 conditions for participating in the young master's gathering. The young man complains about the demands but asks what the conditions are, curious to know. Cheon then says the first condition is that he allows him to check his pulse. Baek is surprised and asks why the scholar wants to check his pulse. Cheon explains that he saw the young man preparing the wisdom broth, and that taking it incorrectly can damage the brain. Baek gets annoyed and says he knows the risks of messing with meridians and questions the scholar's logic. The scholar replies that it would be a disaster if the broth interfered with his high-level martial arts cultivation. The young master agrees and tells Cheon to check his pulse quickly to make sure everything is okay. He says it would be terrible if his brilliant brain were damaged and boasts about his intelligence. The young man concludes that the scholar has nothing to gain by harming him, so he trusts his assessment. Cheon agrees and begins to check Baek's pulse with a serious expression. He decides to inject a little spiritual energy to see if there's any reaction from the young man. The scholar concentrates and eagerly waits for a response from the young master's body. He hopes that his coming to the Namgang clan won't be in vain, and that he'll find what he's looking for. Suddenly, he feels a faint but definite energy coming from Baek's wrist. With wide eyes, he recognizes the energy of the Wuka star, one of the 7 stars he's searching for. The young master notices Cheon's shocked expression and asks what the problem is. The scholar remains silent for a moment, processing the incredible discovery he just made. With an excited smile, he says there's no problem, and that the energy in his brain is strong. Baek gets chills from the scholar's reaction and boasts that even Cheon is impressed by his intellect. He then asks what the second condition is for the scholar to attend the gathering. With a mysterious smile, Cheon reveals that the second condition is to observe the young man's training. The young master is surprised and asks why he wants to observe his training. Cheon begins to explain his reasoning, saying that a clan with a distinguished history like the Namgang. He continues, saying that to interpret the chants, He needs to understand the principles of the clan's other martial arts. Mu Baek is surprised, as scholars usually look down on martial arts as something vulgar. He wonders if what he's seeing is a true scholar who dedicates himself to deeply understanding the chants. With an excited smile, the young master decides he'll have him interpret the manual he's currently learning. He thinks that if it works, great, but if it doesn't matter, and laughs at the idea. The young man agrees to let the scholar observe his training but sets his own condition. Chien wonders if he'll have to interpret yet another manual, but Mu Baek just tells him to show up tomorrow. The scholar agrees with a mischievous smile, amused by the turn of events. The next day, the young master is undecided about whether to show the manual to the scholar. Tired of his hesitation, Chien impatiently snatches the book from his hand and glares at him. The scholar reads the title and is surprised to see it's the manual for the boundless blue sky sword arts. He's shocked because this is one of the two great arts of the Namgang clan, and one of the best in Murim. Chien wonders why the young man keeps showing him secret manuals. With a suspicious look, he wonders if the young master is completely insane. Mu Baek smiles and asks what he thought of the manual with a superior expression. The scholar asks if it's safe to show a clan's secret technique to an outsider like him. The young man replies that it isn't, but he can do it because he really wants to master the technique. Chien falls silent for a moment, surprised by the young master's sincerity and determination. Mu Baek continues, saying that with his superior talent, it would be good to master the technique faster than his brothers. He adds that since Chien worked in the Alliance, he knows the laws of Murim and won't go around blabbing. The young master says he doesn't know anything and tells the scholar to just read and interpret the chants for him. He then offers 300 silver taels if the scholar can interpret the manual correctly. Chien asks if he'll give it in heavy coins again, but the young man promises to give him a banknote. With the deal sealed, Mu Baek begins his sword training with fast and powerful movements. He executes the technique with great skill, while Chien observes him and reads the manual. The scholar seems surprised and fascinated by what he's reading in the clan's secret book. He is enchanted by the beauty of the sword art, which is like a song to the infinite sky. Meanwhile, the young master shouts and gives his all in his intense training. Chien watches him with a bored and disinterested expression at the young man's shouting. Mu Baek continues to train with ferocity and determination, unleashing all his power. He yells with effort as he executes the complex movements of the sword technique. The young master continues his training with shouts and exaggerated, noisy movements. The scholar complains that he's too loud and that the shouting is excessive. Mu Baek focuses on his next move, letting out a powerful war cry, but Chien interrupts him and yells for him to shut up and conserve his energy. He explains that this sword art requires conserving every breath, and that shouting disperses his energy. The young man falls silent for a moment, surprised by the scholar's correction. He then continues his training in silence. With a new focus and concentration, his movements become more fluid and precise, without wasting energy on shouts. He executes the technique with a grace and power he didn't have before, impressing even himself. Chien is impressed with the young man's movements, even though the energy of the Wuka star hasn't manifested yet. He realizes that Mu Baek is truly no ordinary brat and has great potential. With a mischievous smile, the scholar encourages him to train more to manifest that energy. The young master continues his training with leaps and acrobatic movements in the air. He lands gracefully and prepares for the next move, his sword in hand. With a strained expression, he continues to practice the sword technique with dedication. Suddenly, his sword falls to the ground, and he is shocked by what just happened. Chien watches him with a neutral expression, holding the manual in his hands. Mu Baek approaches and says that before, he didn't have the breath control to even finish one form. But today, he completed the first form for the first time and asks how the scholar knew. Chien lies and says he only said that because the young man was annoying and loud. He then explains that the text says to conserve breath and that this is common sense in martial arts. The young master is confused, says he read the text dozens of times, but never saw that part. The scholar then points to a line about the steadiness of a candle flame and asks why they used that word. Mu Baek finally understands that the unwavering candle flame meant his breath shouldn't leak out. He's shocked, as this interpretation wasn't even in the clan's official commentary. The young man praises Cheon and says he was able to execute the first form thanks to his help, but he admits he knows nothing about the chants that follow in the technique. He explains that he can do the movements, but can't express the technique without knowing the meaning. Cheon taunts him and says if he doesn't know, why doesn't he just perform the technique in front of him? Baek is shocked by the scholar's suggestion and wonders if he should really do it. Cheon points at him and says he is the teacher and the young man is the student, and there can be no education without respect. He then turns and says maybe he should go see young Master Lee, leaving Mu back annoyed. The scholar provokes him by saying he heard his older brother practices something similar and questions his lack of respect. With a confident smile, Cheon plants the seed of ambition in the young master's heart. He says it's possible that Baek could be the first of the direct lineage to achieve the secret essence of the sword art. The young man is shocked by the possibility and wonders if he can really be the first to reach the essence. He clenches his fists, determined to prove his worth and show his potential to the world. With an excited smile, he agrees to show the technique to the scholar without hesitation, but he fumbles while trying to show respect, and Cheon corrects him, saying that's not how it's done. Meanwhile, the patriarch approaches the training ground with a serious expression. He wonders if his son is tormenting the new scholar and prepares to intervene. The patriarch decides that if the boy is doing something wicked, he will scold him severely, but upon arriving, he hears Cheon authoritatively telling Mu back to do the technique again. From a distance, the patriarch watches and hears the scholar instructing his son to think about the meaning of the chant. He is surprised to realize the scholar is actually teaching his son something. Baek responds enthusiastically, calling Cheon teacher and showing unexpected respect. The patriarch is shocked to see his son, who barely uses honorifics with his own brothers, being polite to a scholar. He realizes the rumors about Cheon rehabilitating Peng So-eun were true. With a smile, he decides he shouldn't just stand by and that he must reward the scholar greatly. Cheon corrects Mu back, saying the name of the technique is Boundless Blue Sky Sword Arts, and that sky is in the name. The patriarch is shocked to realize his son has revealed the clan's secret technique to the scholar. He can't believe his son showed the clan's secret technique to a mere scholar. Furious, the patriarch decides he will capture them both immediately to resolve the situation. Cheon then tells Baek to think carefully about what he's doing. He explains that if you remove the unnecessary branches from the chants, it all boils down to a single truth. With a confident smile, he prepares to reveal the essence of the technique to the young master. The patriarch hears Cheon's words and is shocked by the depth of his knowledge. The truth is that although the mountain is high, it is under the heavens, and water flows over the land. Baek sits down to meditate and reflects on the meaning of the scholar's words. He understands that no matter how high the mountain is, it will always exist under the sky. He sinks into a state of deep concentration, seeking to understand the essence of the technique. Suddenly, his eyes open with an intense blue glow, and he reaches a new level of perception. Cheon observes and is impressed to see that the young man found the mental image instantly. The sun sets as the young master continues to meditate and deepen his understanding. The patriarch watches from a distance with an expression of pride and admiration for his son. Meanwhile, Cheon continues to read the manual with a calm and thoughtful expression. After a long time, Baek opens his eyes, his face sweaty but with a new clarity. His eyes shine with a golden light, and he says he thinks he understands a little. With a smile, he says he can finally see the path forward in his cultivation. He explains that there is nothing greater than the sky, and that it embraces all things in its immensity. With his sword raised, he channels the energy of the blue sky into his newly discovered technique. Cheon watches him and wonders if the path to the essence is becoming visible to the young man. Baek holds the sword firmly and understands that the blue sky extends infinitely without limits. And that is the true meaning of boundless, contained in the name of the sword art. With his eyes gleaming with determination, he prepares to unleash his full power. An explosion of golden energy emanates from his sword as he executes the strike. He laughs with joy as he cuts through the air with a force and precision he had never achieved before. With a wild smile, he celebrates his progress and feels amazing with his newfound power. The young master then turns to Cheon and asks him to enlighten him further with his wisdom. The scholar watches him with a calm and enigmatic expression, ready to guide him. With a cunning smile, he says that a bird flying in the sky has no prescribed way of flapping its wings. He explains that to perfect the sword art, one must break free and fly freely. Cheon provokes him, saying that since he's lived his whole life as a scoundrel, he knows that feeling well. The young man falls silent for a moment, surprised by the depth of the scholar's words. He stares at the scholar from a distance, processing the new lesson he just learned. Mubake wonders if, because he has lived like a scoundrel, he truly knows freedom. He clutches his chest, feeling a strong and overwhelming emotion take over his heart. Suddenly, he starts laughing loudly, a laugh of pure joy and understanding. He says those words are correct, and that they send shivers down his spine. From a distance, the patriarch observes and realizes his own perception was flawed and limited. He understands that with his narrow vision, he would never reach the true essence of the sword art. The patriarch then walks away, reflecting that he never lived freely, and that's why he was trapped. He walks away with a new understanding of himself and the art he practices. With a smile, he realizes his youngest son might be the first to achieve true mastery. Mubake shouts, wondering what this emotion is that he's feeling for the first time. He reflects that he lived like a scoundrel just to feel freedom, rejecting everything around him. But now he wonders if this emotion he's feeling is the true freedom he sought for so long. Cheon watches him lying on the ground, exhausted but with a look of pure enlightenment on his face. The scholar realizes the young man is following a path similar to Pangso, Lin's, but perhaps faster. With a smile, he wonders if it's time to move on to the next stage of his plan. He remembers that in the Big Dipper, there are 7 stars, each with a unique energy. Among them, the most destructive and powerful is the Broken Army Star, the Martial Star. The scholar reveals that those with the heavenly martial body are born with the fate of this star. They are destined to destroy themselves and face their demise unless they can change their fate. To escape this, he needs to absorb the energy of the other stars, just as he did with Pangso. The scene then shifts to Cheon's quarters, where he seems worried about something. He realizes the patriarch overheard his conversation with Mubake and smells a faint scent in the air. With a jolt, he recognizes the scent of Patriarch Namgung and understands he's been discovered. The scholar knows that an outsider like him seeing a secret manual is a problem punishable by death. At that exact moment, the servant appears and says the Patriarch has requested an urgent meal. Cheon says he understands and that he will go meet the clan leader immediately. The servant wonders how he knew about the summons and why his expression looks so grim. Later, a lavish table is served with various delicacies and fresh fruits for the meal. The scholar sits at the table with a tense expression, awaiting the patriarch's arrival. The clan leader appears and welcomes the scholar with a serious and imposing expression. He then introduces his wife, who is sitting beside him with an enigmatic smile. Cheon bows in respect and says it's an honor to meet her, but he's clearly nervous. The patriarch stares at him with an unreadable expression, increasing the tension in the air. Suddenly, his wife scolds him and asks why he lied to her about something. The scholar remains silent, completely confused by the couple's argument. The woman complains that her husband didn't tell her the scholar was so handsome and that she hasn't seen a man like him in ages. The patriarch smiles and says he understands what she meant, then apologizes to Cheon for taking his time. The scholar replies that it's no bother and that it's an honor to have been invited. The clan leader's wife comments that she heard Cheon was famous even in the Murim alliance. The woman praises him for calling the eradication of corruption notoriety and finds him admirable. She then asks if he knows a poem about fighting injustice, as he does. With a smile, she begins to recite the poem, surrounded by imaginary cherry blossoms. The scholar replies that injustice cannot stand taller than the pine tree and will be shaken by the wind. The woman praises him for his knowledge of poetry and calligraphy. as well as painting and music. Cheon replies with a forced smile that he merely took an interest in those arts as hobbies. He wonders if he was worrying for nothing and tries to relax in front of the couple. Suddenly, the patriarch slams his hand on the table, startling his wife. The woman stares at him, surprised by her husband's sudden change in mood. Cheon remains silent with a nervous smile, not knowing what to expect from the situation. The patriarch then says to stop with the pleasantries and discusses official matters. With a dark look, he tells the scholar to speak honestly about what happened. He confronts him, saying he knows that seeing the clan's secret techniques is a crime punishable by death. Cheon is shocked to realize the patriarch knows everything and can't hide his surprise. The clan leader asks in a threatening voice if he saw the chance of the secret technique. The room grows tense and silent as the scholar meets the patriarch's furious gaze. The patriarch repeats the question with an even angrier expression, waiting for an answer. Cheon realizes he knew about his conversation with Mu-Baek and feels cornered. He feels the patriarch's oppressive pressure, and his mind races to find a way out. The scholar looks for a way to escape the dangerous situation he's gotten himself into. He decides he must appeal to the patriarch's wife, knowing that Mu-Baek is her weak spot. Calmly and respectfully, he answers that yes, it was at the young master's request that he saw the manual. The patriarch asks with disdain if that's his only excuse for the crime he committed. Cheon then explains that he saw desperation in Mu-Baek's eyes when he showed him the sword art. He says he realized that this martial art was the only thing that could correct the young man's behavior. The patriarch asks contemptuously if he used a secret technique to fix a scoundrel's behavior. Cheon replies with a saying, "If you remove one evil, 10 virtues will grow." The patriarch accuses him of just making excuses to see the secret arts and help his son. The scholar says it's not just, and that he saw something more within the young master. He reveals that he saw the temperament of a hero in Mu-Baek, and that he has the potential to shake the world. Cheon adds that the young man might even surpass the young hero Pang-So in greatness. The patriarch's wife is shocked and wonders if her son is comparable to the genius Pang-So. The scholar smiles darkly, knowing he's hit the mother's weak spot. The patriarch isn't convinced and asks if his son isn't just a mediocrity with some talent. Cheon explains that the young master possesses a free soul, but felt trapped like a bird in a cage. He continues, saying that because of this, the young man felt like a common chicken or duck. The patriarch's wife becomes emotional upon hearing that her son was acting that way to overcome his self-loathing. The patriarch still finds the story a bit exaggerated and isn't fully convinced. But his wife scolds him, saying the scholar is right in his words. She wonders if anyone has ever tried to understand her son's heart and worried about him. With tears in her eyes, she laments having felt so suffocated and misunderstood. She then thanks Cheon for helping her realize her son's true feelings. The patriarch shouts at his wife, reminding her that one of the clan's secret arts has been leaked. The woman replies that since she's not a martial artist, she doesn't understand the gravity of the situation. But as a mother, she says she would sell any manual to save her son, because he is more precious. Cheon remains silent, completely shocked by the turn of events at the table. The patriarch's wife then slams the table and suggests a punishment for the scholar. She proposes they cut off one of his arms and forgive him, but Cheon is horrified by the idea. The patriarch looks at her with a serious, unreadable expression, not reacting to her proposal. The scholar then stands up and solemnly promises he will never leak the clan's arts. He swears that if he breaks his promise, they can take both his arms, and he will hold no resentment. The patriarch says he'll give him one chance and reveals a new challenge for him. He reminds him that the Juge clan will visit tomorrow and will ask for a duel to humiliate his son. The patriarch explains that his youngest son has never won against the young master of the Juge clan. Cheon understands that his task is to ensure Mu-Baek wins tomorrow's duel. The patriarch confirms and makes an irresistible offer to the scholar in exchange for his services. He promises to appoint him to a position that will grant him the right to see the secret techniques. The scholar is shocked by the proposal, but knows there's a price to pay for this opportunity. The patriarch warns that if he fails, he must offer his head as punishment for his failure. With a serious look, he points at Cheon and says a man like him knows what all this means. The scholar remains silent, processing the life or death proposal he just received. He realizes the patriarch's intention is to keep him by his side, but he needs a justification. The couple stares at him, and Chian understands the patriarch needs a reason to convince him. The justification is to persuade the clan's elders and senate to accept his presence. The patriarch then says that if Chian can truly give his son wings, he can fly freely. With a gesture of respect, Chian bows before the patriarch and his wife. He then turns and leaves the room, leaving the couple behind with their thoughts. The patriarch and his wife watch the scholar walk away with thoughtful expressions. The woman hugs her husband and says he was planning to keep the scholar around all along. She then asks if he intended to employ Chian from the very beginning. The patriarch hugs his wife back and asks if she knows why the scholar came to the clan. He explains that Chin is a man who fought against the Alliance's elders and resisted all threats. The patriarch adds that he was the one who turned Pengso from trash into a human being. The woman is happy to hear her husband brought such an incredible person to help their son. The patriarch says he's glad she likes him and hugs her affectionately. The scene then shifts to the next day, with the clan's courtyard filled with people. The guests from the Juge clan arrive, led by a man with a noble and imposing appearance. Everyone greets each other and prepares for the gathering and the friendly duel to come. The young master of the Juge clan wonders why Mu Baek hasn't shown up for the duel yet. With a mischievous smile, Jujdo one says he wants to play with him soon, showing his arrogance. Meanwhile, Mu Baek is training intensely with his sword under Chian's supervision. The scholar encourages him to think about the meaning of the movements and not just execute them. The young master shouts with effort and obeys his teacher with a new determination. Suddenly, the courtyard door opens, and one of the guests arrives with an air of challenge. Chian and Mu Baek continue their training without stopping. Jujdo one arrives and wonders why the Namgung clan's gate is so low and unimpressive. With an ironic smile, he calls Mu Baek little brother Namgung and taunts him. Chian observes the scene and is amused by the nickname the young master gave his rival. Mu Baek faces his opponent with a serious expression, ready for the duel to come. Du one provokes him, asking if he trained for the duel and saying he doesn't look happy to see him. The young master replies that he's been dying for another shot at him. Chian observes the rival and thinks he didn't seem this tall when he saw him at the Alliance. Do one asks if he's shrunk a bit, but Mu Baek asks if he hasn't grown. He then pats Mu Baek on the head and says little brother Namgung has gotten even cuter. The young man gets annoyed and asks if he came just to brag about his height. Do one is surprised and asks if he thinks he would brag about something so trivial. He says he has plenty to brag about, like martial arts, scholarship, and music. Mu Baek clenches his fists and calls him arrogant, ready to start the fight. Do one then points at Chian and asks if his arrogance is because of that new guy. He gets annoyed with the scholar, who hasn't even greeted him and is just fanning himself arrogantly. With a shout, he asks for the scholar's name, demanding an immediate answer. Chian turns with a calm expression and introduces himself as Chian Tae-san. Do one repeats the name and gets annoyed, saying the scholar has a short tongue too. He decides he's going to fix both of their habits and prepares for the duel. Suddenly, he recognizes the name Chian Tae-san and is shocked by the revelation. Jujdo one is in shock, recognizing the famous ghostly scholar of the Murim Alliance. He then wonders why on earth the famous scholar would be here at the Namgung clan. The three young masters face each other in the training yard, creating a tense atmosphere. Do one then remembers that he's the guy who managed to change brother Peng so Chian asks with a smile why the young man is staring at him like he's seen a ghost. The rival says he thought the scholar would be at the Peng clan, since Peng so said he'd take him there. He then wonders if the tutor isn't as amazing as the rumors said, and that's why he was let go. Do one finds it strange that Elder Gao, who hates Chian, let him leave the Alliance in one piece. With a smile, the scholar replies that he decides where he goes and what he does, and he adds that now he has some business to take care of right here in this place. The rival asks if this is the first time they've met, as he's heard so many rumors it feels like they already know each other. Chian says They've seen each other a few times at the Alliance, but the young master probably doesn't remember. He then reveals that the Inspection Bureau investigated Do-1 when he caused that incident. The young man gets angry at the scholar's audacity and calls him cheeky in front of everyone. Hiding behind his fan, Chian says it was his mistake, and that old habits die hard. With a mocking smile, he says he must have unintentionally upset him, and gives a fake apology. Do-1 gets even more irritated by the scholar's smug attitude. Chian then reminds him that while he's 1 year older than Mu-Baek, he himself is 2 years older than Do-1. The young master of the Juge clan is completely furious at the scholar's lack of respect. With a sigh, he puts his hand on his head. Juge-1 thinks the scholar really has guts to stand up to even Elder Gao. He then scoffs at the idea of using honorifics with Chian. Just because he's 2 years older, the rival says he'll keep speaking casually, and the scholar can do the same if he wants. With a smile, Chian replies that since he's the older brother, it's fine to be informal. Do-1 is shocked by the scholar's audacity and points at him, calling him a punk. Mu-Baek thinks it's rare for someone to dare speak casually to the direct lineage of the 5 great clans. He realizes the scholar acts like there's no tomorrow, and that his attitude wasn't an act. With an admiring smile, the young master says this rigid attitude from the tutor commands his respect. Chian then transforms into his ghostly persona and asks if Do-1 doesn't like him speaking casually. The rival is terrified by the scholar's dark aura, who asks if he should stop with the informality. Do-1 clears his throat to compose himself and suggests they have lunch together at noon to change the subject. He then says he'll see Mu-Baek in the garden and invites Chian to come too, as he found him interesting. As the rival walks away, the scholar thanks him for seeing him in a good light. Chian then calls him Little Do-1, saying he's funnier than he thought. The young master of the Juge clan stops suddenly, shocked and annoyed by the nickname he received. He trembles with rage but doesn't turn around, so as not to lose his composure in front of everyone. With a furious smile, he decides he's going to settle things with that cheeky scholar. Mu-Baek watches his rival walk away while Chian remains calm by his side. The young master is speechless for a moment, trying to process what just happened. Suddenly, he rushes towards Chian, shocked by his deflecting speed. With an admiring smile, Mu-Baek says Scholar Chian is even more incredible than he thought. He then asks if it's true that he sent the terrible Elder Gao to heck, and if he's really provoking Judge Do-1. Running alongside him, the young master also wants to know if it's true that he turned Brother Peng into a human being. With a smirk, Chian comments that the honorifics seem to have stuck to his student's tongue now. The young man says that after seeing the manual's interpretation and how he handled Do-1, he couldn't help but acknowledge him, and the scholar agrees it's a good change. Mu-Baek then scratches his head and admits that although the tutor says he's changed, he doesn't feel the change himself. Chian reveals that Peng So-un was like that at the beginning too, and the young master warns him not to say his name so casually. He's terrified and explains that unlike him, that guy starts a fight first, and the scholar could get seriously hurt. The tutor then calmly replies that he and the other young master aren't friends. With a confident smile, he reveals that Peng So-un actually calls him Big Brother. The young man doubts it, saying that guy looks at scholars like they're street dogs, and that Chian tells terrible jokes. The scholar just stares at him in silence, neither confirming nor denying the story he just told. Mu-Baek is completely shocked by the possibility and points at his master, speechless. He then stammers and asks loudly if that's really true. The scene then shifts, and the two arrive at a beautiful garden with a large pavilion and a serene lake. Chian observes the place and asks if this is the famous demon subjugation garden. The young master confirms and begins to tell the story of the place, saying it all happened 50 years ago. In a flashback, we see warriors fighting against a demonic cult that rose up in the martial world. He explains that the ancestors of the Namgun clan fought on the front lines, but most of them ended up falling in a great tragedy. With a sad look, the young man reveals this is the main reason why the boundless blue sky sword art wasn't fully passed down. Mu-Baek explains that to never forget the resentment and the will of their ancestors, they named the garden this way. Chian comments that it's a place with a very important meaning for the clan's history. Inside the pavilion, Jujdo 1 is relaxing and listening to music with a courtesan by his side. The young master is furious to see that his rival has called courtesans to the demon subjugation garden. He confronts him, saying that anyone who sees him would think he owns the place, calling courtesans here. Do 1 says that in his clan, not even a direct descendant like him can easily summon courtesans, but here they give them to a stranger. A musician plays a gentle melody as the young master of the Joj clan praises the Namgong clan's generosity. Mu Baek gets extremely irritated by the taunt and clenches his fists, ready for a fight. Cheon then places a hand on his chest and asks the young master not to get worked up over the situation. With a confident smile, the scholar tells his student that he'll take care of everything. He then advises the young man to just sit back and enjoy whatever his rival tries to pull. Cheon approaches and greets little Do 1, asking if he's been having fun. The young master of the Juj clan gets annoyed by the nickname, but maintains his composure in front of everyone. With a smile, the scholar invites his student to come in and join the party. The young man hesitates for a moment, but eventually agrees to enter the pavilion with his master. With an excited shout, he prepares for the competition that is about to begin. Suddenly, a hand stops the musical instrument, and Do 1 says not to make him laugh with that music. He then takes the instrument and stands up, preparing to show off his own talent. The rival explains that since he was bored alone, he called for a Pippa performance. With a cold look, he says he thought he'd have the musician play for little brother Mu Baek and scholar Cheon. With his nimble fingers, Jujdo 1 begins to play a beautiful melody on the instrument. The soft music floats through the pavilion as everyone watches his performance. With his eyes closed, he completely gives himself over to the melody, showing his concentration. In the background, some men watch the talented young master's performance. Meanwhile, Cheon and Mu Baek relax and listen to the music with calm expressions. Suddenly, the rival thinks with a smile that his thinking was a bit limited. He then taunts Mu back, saying that since he only trains, he probably doesn't understand a thing about music. The young master gets annoyed, and the rival pretends to apologize for not being considerate. Sipping his tea, Cheon realizes he wants to rattle his student before the duel. Do 1 then offers to explain the music to his ignorant little brother, but Cheon explains that the music is famous for being a morning song by a great artist. The young master of the Juj clan is surprised and comments that the scholar understands music. With a confident smile, the tutor says he knows the 10 great songs and even plays them. The rival then looks at the garden and announces that at the perfect moment, she has arrived. Cheon and Mu Baek look at each other, confused, wondering who he's talking about. Do 1 explains that he called for an audience because a good performance deserves to be seen. With a mischievous smile, he reveals he also invited a very special guest. He then introduces the greatest courtesan of Hefei, who approaches with elegance. One of the men in the audience recognizes her as Qin Yo from the Celestial Pleasure Pavilion. The beautiful woman walks with her attendant close behind. With a charming smile, the courtesan Chiang Yo shows off her stunning beauty. Mu Baek is captivated by the woman's beauty, while Cheon observes her indifferently. Do 1 thinks his rival is just showing off his authority by inviting the famous courtesan. He also wants her to listen to and evaluate his music, but the scholar sees through his intentions. With an evil smile, the rival invites everyone to have their sound evaluated by an expert. He reveals he's looking forward to seeing scholar Cheon's musical skills in action. In the garden, everyone gathers to watch the duel of talents between the young masters. 2 men arrive at the scene, and one of them comments on this year's friendly duel. The other man replies with disdain, saying the outcome isn't already obvious, as always. But the first man says this year will be different and that things are going to change. The man then asks if young Master Mu Baek has achieved some kind of enlightenment. The patriarch's companion replies that he's finally started to use his head a little. With an ironic smile, the man from the Juj clan responds with a simple, "Is that so?" He then says that since the duel represents their clans, they should make a bet. The man suggests they bet the loading rights of the escort agency on the duel's outcome. The patriarch's companion thinks he's a cunning snake, trying to settle the dispute with a simple duel. With a smile, he accepts the bet and says the idea sounds very fun. The man from the Juge clan smiles victoriously, believing he has already won the dispute. The courtesan Chiang Yo then thanks them for the invitation and introduces herself as Zhang Yang. Do-won smiles with satisfaction and says the preparations are complete. As the audience has gathered, he then says that the greatest musician in Manhwa has also arrived to judge the duel. Do-won invites everyone to begin the duel and leaves the judging to Lady Chiang Yo. He turns to Chian and asks with a smile if he's not nervous about the challenge. With a piece of fruit in his mouth, the scholar replies that he's hardly nervous and is excited to play a little. With a mischievous smile, he suggests that if they're going to compete, they should play the same song. The young master of the Juge clan is surprised and wonders what the scholar is plotting. Chian remains silent for a moment, instrument in hand, waiting for his rival's response. After some thought, Do-won agrees to the condition, but says he gets to choose the song. He then challenges him to play White Snow in Early Spring, since he knows the 10 great songs. The scholar replies that the song is basic, and he's played it a few times. With a confident smile, he says he has no problem playing that song at all. The rival doesn't believe him and thinks he's bluffing, as that song isn't something one masters with just a few tries. With a hateful glare, he decides he's going to stomp on Chian so hard he'll never dare challenge him again. With his eyes closed, he begins to play the instrument with impressive concentration. The notes of the music begin to float through the pavilion, creating a magical atmosphere. The courtesan's attendant notices the airflow changed as soon as he started playing. She then says that even without being able to see, she can imagine each note falling like a snowflake. The enchanting melody spreads through the garden, leaving everyone marveling at the young master's skill. The audience falls silent, completely absorbed in the rival's musical performance. The notes continue to float through the air, creating a scene of pure beauty and harmony. One of the men wonders if they're battling with instruments this year. The other replies that it seems like they're just having a little fun before the duel. The man from the Juge clan praises Do-won's intelligence for using music to suppress his opponent's spirit. He then asks if young Master Mu-baek also understands music, but his companion says he's never seen him with an instrument. The man from the Namgung clan then realizes that his writing teacher is stepping in for him. The rival is surprised and wonders who this writing teacher could be. Do-won finishes his performance and boasts that his skill has already reached a master's level. Chian then cleans his ear out of boredom, and the rival gets annoyed by his attitude. He wonders how a guy who can barely imitate the notes dares to be so arrogant. Do-won challenges him to go ahead and humiliate himself in front of all these people. Suddenly, he starts playing at a fast tempo that sounds like an overwhelming blizzard. His fingers move with incredible speed, unleashing a powerful energy through the strings. The music becomes a snowstorm that envelopes the entire pavilion with its intensity. The courtesan observes and comments on the speed of the music infused with internal energy. The audience is amazed by the young master's skill, which fills the space with sound. The man from the Juge clan comments that his prodigy's skill is impressive for someone so young. He explains that since Do-won used to cause a lot of trouble, he taught him music to calm him down, and before he knew it, the young man reached a level where he could imitate the masters. He then encourages his little Do-won to break his opponent's spirit right from the start. The young master challenges the arrogant rookie to show his pathetic skills as Chian prepares to play. The man asks his wife who she thinks will win the musical duel. With a confident smile, she says that although Do-won's skills are good, scholar Chian will still win. The man is silent for a moment, surprised by his wife's confidence, who says it's a woman's intuition. With a calm smile, Chian begins to play the instrument with impressive composure. He sits and focuses on the music, while Mu-baek watches him with admiration. With his eyes closed, the scholar gives himself over to the melody that begins to flow from his fingers. Suddenly, Do-won is surprised to hear his opponent's performance. The courtesan's attendant notices that although they are playing the same song, Chian's interpretation is completely different. She explains that while Do-won emphasized the white snow, the scholar seems to be interpreting the spring. Mu-baek is shocked by his teacher's skill and whispers his name. The rival admits the performance isn't bad, but says the scholar is no match for him. A golden aura surrounds Qian as he continues to play with impressive mastery, with his eyes glowing with rage. Do-won says he will bury everything with his fast music. He unleashes a wave of blue energy from his instrument to overpower Qian's performance. The scholar smiles and thinks that scoundrels are very amusing when provoked, and decides to use the energy wave. He then gathers spiritual energy at his fingertips, preparing for a counterattack. With a swift move, he unleashes a wave of golden energy from his instrument. The courtesan watches in shock and says the snow is disappearing before Qian's music. Golden butterflies begin to appear and fly around the audience, who are amazed. The scholar relaxes and comments that, as expected, the melody creates 7 atmospheres, and that he plays well. The audience cheers and praises the incredible performance of the 2 musicians. Qian thinks that if he uses this energy well, he can use it in many places, even in the kitchen. Do-won is furious with the result and demands an immediate evaluation from the courtesan. With the instrument in his hands, he stands up and asks Lady Qiang to give her verdict. The courtesan says it was a magnificent performance, but that her attendant will be more precise. She explains that the young woman lost her sight, but gained a sense of hearing that surpasses that of ordinary people. The rival gets angry and asks if she's saying the girl is better than her, the best in a fee. With a cold look, he scoffs at the idea of a blind child being able to judge him. Do-won then agrees as that since she can't see, he expects a fair evaluation. He then tells the young woman to speak and give her verdict on the 2 performances. With a sigh, Qian turns, and the rival asks which of the 2 songs was superior. Everyone waits in silence for the blind young musician's evaluation. Do-won glares at the girl with a confident expression, expecting to be declared the winner. The attendant then says that since her eyes cannot see, she doesn't know who played which piece. But with a smile, she reveals that despite this, she clearly saw what happened. She describes that amidst the snow, she saw spring bloom, and the snowflakes turned into butterflies. Do-won is shocked and asks if she's saying he's worse than that scholar. He then turns and glares at Qian with an expression of pure rage and disbelief. With a sweaty face, he can't believe he was defeated by a rookie. The young master of the Juge clan remains silent, processing his humiliating defeat. Qian compliments the attendant, saying that ever since he learned music, he has been searching for his zhongziki. He then says it seems his zhongziki was here all along and asks for her name. The young woman is surprised and blushes at the scholar's compliment, who looks at her with a gentle smile. She introduces herself as Song Ran and says she is just a blind girl, unworthy of being called zhongziki. Suddenly, Do-won stands up furiously and yells at Mu Baek, asking what he's doing. He challenges him to the duel and tells him to grab his wooden sword so they can start fighting. The young master watches him and comments that he's lost his mind and is screaming like a madman. With a clenched fist, he punches the bench he was sitting on and calls his rival a scoundrel. Mu Baek then leaps onto the battlefield and says he's become a screaming colt. He lands with a powerful impact, ready to face his opponent in the duel. The ground cracks beneath his feet as he prepares for the fight with a determined look. With a challenging smile, he asks if they should see how much their skills have improved since last year. Do-won is surprised and thinks that he's not falling for his taunt and is provoking him back. The scholar observes the scene and thinks that this brat is suddenly getting arrogant. He then bids farewell to the courtesan and says he needs to get over there quickly. With a smile, he approaches the 2 women and formally says goodbye. The attendant then turns to her mistress and says she felt something from that gentleman. She reveals she felt a very special energy coming from Scholar Qian. The courtesan agrees, saying his appearance is also quite remarkable and that he is a special person. Qian approaches Mu Baek, and the 2 prepare for a duel. The garden is filled with people watching the preparations for the duel between the young masters. The 2 opponents face each other on the battlefield, with Qian and Mu Baek on one side. The crowd watches with anticipation as the 2 clans prepare for the confrontation. Mu Baek turns to his master and says he has a question for him about the sword art. He explains that while listening to the music earlier, he vaguely felt the 4th form of the sword art. The young man says he feels like he's about to grasp it, but is still confused and asks if his direction is correct. Chien replies that the fourth form he interpreted is similar to the story of Boya. In a flashback, we see the musician Boya, who broke the strings of his instrument after the loss of his friend. The scholar explains that just as Boya had a friend who understood his music, the sword art also requires understanding. He then reveals that to understand the fourth form, Mu Baek needs to become Ziki and understand Boya. Suddenly, Do-won shouts and asks if he's learning martial arts from a scholar now. He scoffs and asks why he talks so much, and if he's asking about his weakness. The patriarch's companion watches the scene with a serious and thoughtful expression. Mu Baek then grabs his wooden sword and says one can learn martial arts even from a scholar. He continues, saying the path of martial arts is not exclusive to warriors, and that for someone from a clan that values scholarship. The young master concludes that his rival's thinking is too limited and challenges him with his sword. Do-won is surprised and angrily thinks about this guy who is challenging him. The man from the Juge clan complains that although they call Do-won a hidden dragon, his character is terrible. The patriarch is shocked to see his youngest son reprimand his rival using logic and reason. He then realizes that Mu Baek has changed a lot since Scholar Chien arrived and values him even more. Mu Baek is confused and wonders if he really needs to become Ziki to understand his rival. He then questions whether he should think of Do-won as Boya to comprehend him. The young master is shocked by the idea and wonders why on earth he should understand that punk. The rival gets irritated by his opponent's lack of reaction and asks what he's doing. Mu Baek realizes that to become Ziki, he needed to understand his opponent. Do-won gets even more furious and wonders how that punk dares to get distracted in front of him. The young master concentrates and wonders what kind of guy his rival really is in order to understand his essence. Suddenly, the young master of the Juge clan lunges with his sword and warns him to watch his legs. He attacks with incredible speed and power as his eyes glow with blue energy. Mu Baek faces him with a calm expression and thinks that his rival is a despicable guy. He understands that until now, he only tried to understand his martial arts, but needs to go beyond that. The young man realizes this means he must understand his behavior and his mind to defeat him. With a new understanding, he dodges Do-won's attack with ease and grace. The rival is surprised and asks if he's only been training to run away all this time. With a mocking smile, he asks if Mu Baek isn't attacking because he's scared of him. The young master thinks, yes, his rival is a despicable guy who digs at his opponent's weakness with words. He realizes that seeing him try to bait him now is truly pathetic and smiles with contempt. With a confident smile, the young man wonders if he's grown so much that he can realize this. He then taunts Do-won, saying he was just checking if his skills had improved. In a fit of rage, the rival shouts that he must be crazy to want to perish and lunges for a final attack. With a mocking smile, Mu Baek asks if cursing isn't a bit much for a friendly duel. Do-won lunges with a powerful attack, unleashing a wave of blue energy from his sword. The young master thinks that even his rival's attacks are full of lies and deception. He realizes the rival is acting like he's digging into his left side to trick him. But using his advantage, he uses his long arms like a whip for a variable attack. The young man understands that the true target of the attack is his neck and prepares to defend himself. With a confident smile, he says that now that he understands his personality in martial arts, his moves are obvious. Do-won is shocked to see that his plan was discovered so easily by his opponent. Mu Baek then rushes in and realizes that if he continues to provoke and ignore him, he'll try to suppress him. He knows his rival will try to use his power to show his superiority and crush him. The young master of the Juge clan unleashes a powerful attack, but his opponent blocks it with ease. With his sword glowing with green energy, he challenges him to see if he can escape his sword now. With a swift move, he delivers a powerful blow towards his rival, but in the blink of an eye, Mu Baek grabs his opponent's sword with his bare hands. With a smile, he asks who's running, as he's just grabbing the sword. He then intercepts the attack and grabs Do-won's wrist with impressive strength. The rival is shocked and humiliated to realize his wrist was caught by his opponent. With a victorious smile, The young master says it's now his turn to attack. In a swift move, he hits Do-1 in the face with the hilt of his sword. The young master of the Juge clan yells for him to wait. Mu-Baek attacks his opponent with precision and disarms him with a swift and accurate move. He then releases his rival's hand, showing that the duel is over and he is the victor. With a victorious smile, the young master walks away as Do-1 watches him, defeated. He then says that since it's a friendly duel, they should end it there with his victory. The crowd cheers for the young master's victory, who proves to be a skilled and intelligent warrior. The man from the Judge clan is silent, completely shocked by his prodigy's defeat. The patriarch celebrates and says his youngest son defeated Do-1 in a duel and that he has won. He then turns to Scholar Cheon and thanks him for his valuable help and guidance. Mu-Baek celebrates and says that just as the scholar was right, it all comes down to thinking and understanding. Do-1 can't believe it and thinks there's no way that's his opponent's real skill. He then deduces that that punk must be working behind the scenes and using some kind of trick. Meanwhile, Cheon relaxes and fans himself, enjoying the garden breeze. With a bored look, he wonders what's going on and if the fight is over yet. With the sword in hand, the young master proudly declares that he has won the duel. He reflects that, like mountains in flowing water, he never tried to understand what was natural. With a thoughtful look, he realizes that before, he didn't care about understanding the essence of things. But now that he understands the essence, he sees the path and realizes the fourth form is the act of understanding oneself. With an excited smile, he turns to his master and asks if he is correct in his conclusion. Cheon looks at him with an expression of complete disinterest and fans himself more forcefully. Mu-Baek is confused and wonders what's with that look of disinterest from his teacher. Mu-Baek feels disheartened and wonders if a man like him is still not good enough. Do-1 approaches and there is no way he won by skill. With an angry look, he says if it were a real sword, he would have won the duel. The young master then asks why he's so angry and if he should call it a draw if he cares so much. The rival gets even more irritated and demands to know how he read his moves, and if it was the scholar who taught him. From a distance, Cheon watches the scene and wonders why they have so much to talk about if the duel is already over. He gets annoyed with the delay and wonders why they don't just finish the discussion. Mu-Baek then offers his opponent another chance tomorrow if he really doesn't accept the result. Do-1 is surprised by the offer and wonders if he should accept the challenge again. With sword in hand, he agrees and says he'll check tomorrow if he really knows how to break his clan's arts. Furious, he shouts that he'll find out if he really knows the secrets of their techniques. From afar, Cheon comments that his rival is like a child who sees everything as a nail when he has a hammer. With a mocking smile, he says young Master Juge looks exactly like that right now. The rival gets irritated by the taunt and lunges toward Cheon, ready to attack him. He shouts that he left that scholar alone, and now he's provoking him non-stop. Do-1 then attacks Cheon with his wooden sword, but Mu-Baek intervenes to protect his master. The young master thinks that punk is taking out his anger on Scholar Cheon. He then rushes towards his rival and says he can't let that happen. With a powerful impact, he gets in front of the attack and says his master still has many manuals to interpret. He then unleashes the fourth form of the boundless blue sky sword art and prepares for a counterattack. With a swift move, Mu-Baek dodges his opponent's attack with impressive speed. Do-1 is shocked and wonders if it's impossible for him to be faster than him. The patriarch watches the scene and wonders if that is the blue lightning splitting the sea technique. With a satisfied smile, Cheon thinks his student was truly born with martial talent. With a war cry, the young master charges for the attack, his sword in hand. He delivers a powerful blow that throws Do-1 to the ground, defeated and unresponsive. The rival gets angry and calls him a scoundrel rookie, not believing he was beaten again. With sword in hand, he prepares for one last desperate attack against his opponent. Do-1 shouts for him to swallow this and throws his sword toward Cheon to get revenge. The sword flies at high speed toward the scholar, who is sitting calmly. Mu-Baek shouts and warns him to be careful of the sudden and unexpected attack. Cheon just looks at it with a calm expression, showing no fear of the situation. It is revealed that those born with the heavenly martial body can see incredible things. If they wish to see, they can even perceive falling raindrops. The scholar then uses his ability to create a blue energy barrier around himself. He can visualize every detail of the sword's movement as it flies toward him. With a swift move, he dodges the sword, which grazes past him. With a smile, he says that was a close one and unleashes a wave of blue energy from his hands. The man from the Juge clan watches the scene and wonders how the sword got there. He then removes his sword from its sheath. The patriarch barely manages to dodge the sword, but is shocked by the attack's power. The two wooden swords are now stuck in the ground after the intense confrontation. The man from the Juge clan gets up and says he's fine, while the patriarch watches him with concern. The leader of the Namgung clan notices the sword carried a rotation that made it more powerful. He understands the rotation was added to the sword while it was in motion. The patriarch realizes that since the rotation was hidden by Qian's sleeve, it looked like he simply dodged. But in reality, the sword came out amplified with much greater force than when it went in. He then remembers the fifth form of the sword art, the ascension of the blue dragon, and is shocked. The patriarch can't believe the scholar not only interpreted the chants, but also used the technique. He thinks that knowing the theory and using it are two completely different things, and that it must be a coincidence. The man from the Judge clan can't believe that even if he is an unparalleled genius, he could do such a thing. He then shouts at Do-1 for not accepting the result and trying to tarnish his clan's name. The young master hangs his head in shame, and his master teaches him that one must learn to lose. With a sweaty and humiliated face, Do-1 feels like a foolish boy in front of everyone. He then kneels on the ground, completely defeated, and without the strength to continue. Mu-Baek celebrates and says he manifested the blue lightning splitting the sea on his first try. With an excited smile, he boasts that, as expected, he truly is a peerless genius. The man from the Judge clan then bids farewell to the patriarch, saying he must leave immediately. The leader of the Namang clan is surprised and says they still haven't resolved the issue of the escort agency. The patriarch warns that the loss for the Juge clan will be significant, asks if he's sure. The man from the Juge clan says he hopes today's events will be well resolved in the end. The patriarch reassures him and tells him not to worry about today's events. He assures him that no unpleasant rumors will reach the outside world, but the man doubts it. With a smile, the leader of the Namgang clan says of course not and asks him to seal a deal. The man from the Juge clan laughs and comments that he already anticipated everything that would happen. With a pen in hand, he says he envies the patriarch for having such a promising son. He then comments that Mu-Baek used to cause trouble but has now matured a lot. The patriarch's companion says he assumes he gained some enlightenment after studying with Qian. The man asks if he's referring to the scholar who was playing the instrument earlier. He then remembers they called him Scholar Qian and wonders if he's the famous ghostly scholar. The patriarch looks at him with a serious expression, neither confirming nor denying the tutor's identity. The scene then shifts to a dark night, with a full moon shining over the mountains. Two mysterious figures enter an isolated cabin, wearing cloaks and masks to hide. They are revealed to be a white-haired woman and her servant, ready for a mission. With a torch in hand, they walk through a dark and mysterious cave. The two carefully explore the cave, looking for something specific and important. Suddenly, they find a large ice crystal with a female figure trapped inside. The woman inside the crystal seems to be in a deep sleep, completely frozen. The crystal begins to melt, and the woman wonders what on earth is happening. She is shocked and wonders if the ice crystal isn't melting right now. A solitary cabin is covered in snow amidst a frozen, mountainous landscape. The torch-lit cave trembles and cracks with a deafening noise. The two women watch the ice crystal, which continues to melt rapidly. The white-haired woman touches the crystal and wonders how this can be happening. She then thinks that the only ones who possess the energy to melt the crystal are her and the palace master. The servant asks if with the awakening of the glacial holy body, they will be able to reclaim the ice palace. With a determined look, the woman replies of course, as they will have the necessary power. She explains that the glacial holy body possesses abilities far greater than the third guardian knows. Back in the garden, the patriarch observes the man from the Juge clan approaching Chin. He then asks if his name is really Scholar Chien, and the tutor confirms respectfully. The man says a scholar of his caliber shouldn't waste time in a martial family. With a smile, Chien thanks him for his words, but says he still has work to do there. The man insists and asks him to go to his clan and do something about Do, one, who is causing trouble. He then tries to tempt him with an offer of higher pay, saying his clan knows how to treat a scholar. Suddenly, a shadow appears, and the man from the Juge clan is surprised to see the patriarch. The leader of the Namgong clan says that would be difficult, as the scholar has much to do there. The man then asks for a chance, and the patriarch lets Chien answer about his thoughts. The scholar then says there's a saying that goes, "Those who want to succeed find a way," and with a serious expression, he completes it, saying, "Those who don't always find an excuse." The man from the Judge clan smiles and says it was an amusing answer, and that he will be leaving. With a furious shout, the man from the Juge clan calls his men to leave. His followers reply yes, and that the meeting is over and they are departing. With a sigh of frustration, he turns and leads his retinue out of the Namgong clan. The two clans bid farewell, and the Juge clan's delegation leaves after the duel. The patriarch comments that people who know nothing about Scholar Chien are just being greedy. He then thanks the tutor and says it's thanks to him that his youngest son now acts like a human being. With a smile, Chien says the young master is like steel that needs to be hammered with praise. The leader of the Namgong clan agrees and says he will keep that in mind when dealing with his son. The scene then shifts to a bustling market with various stalls and people walking around. The courtesan and her attendant walk through the market while being watched by cloaked figures. The young musician seems distracted, and her mistress gets her attention with a touch. The courtesan asks if Scholar Chien's performance is stuck in her head. With a smile, the attendant says that even in the pleasure pavilion, where she has heard many melodies, she says she has never heard a song like the Scholar's, and that it was a unique experience. The courtesan agrees and says that even she couldn't escape the lingering feeling of the music. The attendant then feels something strange and stops, suddenly with a worried expression. Suddenly, a group of cloaked female warriors passes by them with a powerful aura. The young musician asks her mistress if some martial artists just passed by them. The courtesan confirms and says they looked like female warriors, but doesn't understand why she's asking. She then questions if she has bad memories of martial artists as the two cloaked figures watch them. The two cloaked figures walk down a deserted street while being watched by a man. The elder of the North Sea Ice Palace, Yuyak Rip, asks if that is the young master's heady-out. Her attendant confirms and says yes, that is their secret heady-out. She then reveals that the third guardian, Chi Young, is acting as the owner of the place. The elder scoffs at the idea of the third guardian passing as a shopkeeper and finds it embarrassing. She then asks if the glacial holy body is also there, but her attendant doesn't know. The woman explains that besides that place, the young master has hideouts in a pharmacy and a small sect. The elder complains that everything is too simple and tells her attendant to investigate thoroughly. With a determined look, she says they must secure the glacial holy body at all costs. The scene then shifts to a sunny day with birds flying over the rooftops of a palace. In his quarters, Chien prepares for the day, tying his hair with a ribbon. He then puts on his robe with a serious and thoughtful air, preparing for another day. With a calm expression, he finishes getting dressed, ready to face the challenges to come. Suddenly, the servant appears and says he was right, and that the master was there. The young master then asks if the rumors are true about him not being a martial artist. He wonders how a scholar can have such a fit body and possess martial skills. Mu Baek then remembers the rumors that he is a secret weapon created by the Murim Alliance. Chien is confused and wonders what they are talking about with those rumors. He then replies that he was born with a good constitution and that there is no secret. The servant and the young master find the answer even more suspicious and look at him with distrust. Chien smiles and thinks that seeing the servant talking with the young master, it seems she has become comfortable with him. The servant laughs while Mu Baek looks at her with a serious and confused expression. The scholar then says he heard a rumor yesterday about something interesting that happened. He reveals that he heard the divine dragon of the Namgung clan defeated the hidden dragon of the Juj clan. The young master is embarrassed and asks if his master heard about it too. Cheon then says goodbye, saying he has an appointment with the patriarch and needs to go. Mu, back and the servant are silent for a moment, watching the scholar walk away. The young master has a worried and speechless expression at his master's departure. He then runs after Cheon and asks him to wait a moment as he needs to talk to him. The scholar stops and turns to his student, asking if he understood what he said. The young man says that since it's the first favor his mother has asked of him, he is telling him about it. He then reveals that he personally doesn't recommend his sister, as she has a terrible temper. Cheon smiles and deduces that the lady is considering a marriage between her sister and him. Mu Baek confirms and says that if his father asks him about the marriage, he should say he has no intention. The young man is silent for a moment with a serious and thoughtful expression. He then relaxes and says it would be weird to have Scholar Cheon as his brother-in-law. The tutor is silent for a moment with a calm and enigmatic expression. The young master then says he just wants him to continue as his writing teacher, as he is now. He looks at the horizon with a sincere and determined expression in his eyes. Cheon watches him with a smile, and the two are silent for a moment, enjoying the peace. The sun shines in the blue sky as Cheon and Mu Baek walk through the clan's courtyard. The young master says his sister is very skilled in martial arts and beautiful, but also very impulsive. The scholar stops and observes the large palace before him with a thoughtful expression. He then feels the heat rising in his body and realizes he needs to check Mu Baek's energy soon. With a worried expression, he thinks he needs to see how much his student's energy has grown. The scene then shifts to a room where the patriarch is waiting for him and greets him warmly. Cheon bows in respect and prepares to hear what the clan leader has to say. The patriarch then says he called him to give him an answer about what they discussed earlier. He asks if knowing the clan's secret techniques is a problem and offers a solution. With a chest in his hands, he asks what would happen if he gave him a status, so it would no longer be a problem. Cheon is shocked and wonders if he's suggesting he become a member of the family. He then remembers the conversation about marriage and wonders if that's what the patriarch wants to talk about. The patriarch slams his hand on the table and says that from now on, Scholar Cheon is no longer a mere scholar. The tutor is speechless at the clan leader's declaration, who looks at him intensely. The man from the Namlung clan then hands him a token of the patriarch's personal guardian, a symbol of absolute trust. Cheon is shocked to receive the token and doesn't know what to say in the face of such an honor. The patriarch then asks what he thinks of the proposal and eagerly awaits his response. With a confident smile, he says that with this, neither the Council of Elders nor the Senate can have a problem with him. The shining token is a symbol of the patriarch's personal guardian, a position of great prestige. The two are silent in the room as the scholar processes the incredible proposal he received. With a shocked expression, Cheon says the proposal is too much for him to accept. The patriarch says he has already seen the clan's secret techniques, which is enough to guarantee his demise. With a smile, he says that since the scholar will be of great help to the clan, they cannot let him perish. The tutor is silent for a moment, processing the proposal and the veiled threat. The leader of the Namgung clan explains that with the token, he can enjoy all the rights of the clan. Cheon thanks him but says he doesn't know if he deserves such treatment and honor from the patriarch. The man from the Namgung clan says he also needs a justification to present to the Council of Elders. He then reveals he is bringing the scholar's mother there, and that he will see her soon, with the full support of the clan. With a gesture of respect, the tutor bows before the patriarch, thanking him deeply. With his eyes closed, he thanks the clan leader for his generosity and support. The scholar then goes out to the terrace and observes the landscape with new hope. He thinks that his mother is coming and that he needs to hurry to find the herbs to cure her. With a smile, he says it's been a while since he's seen her and that he wants to see her soon. Suddenly, Mu Baek appears and says they have a big problem to solve. He reveals that he's noticed people are calling him the Divine Dragon and that the rumors will spread. The young man wonders if soon everyone will call him the Divine Dragon, and a crowd acclaims him. With an embarrassed smile, he says he doesn't like pretending to be a good person. He then wonders if he should become a scoundrel, or if his destiny is to be the Divine Dragon. With a desperate cry, he asks his master to give him his teachings to guide him. Cheon looks at him with a very blank, empty expression, uninterested in what is happening. Cheon tells his student to listen carefully, because the scoundrel is him, and the Divine Dragon is also him. He then explains that an ordinary person would struggle to be just one of the two. But with an excited shout, he says that if he is young Master Namgong, the ultimate scoundrel, he can be both. With an enlightened smile, Mu Baek understands he must become a scoundrelly Divine Dragon. He laughs at the idea while the scholar looks at him with an expression of total disinterest. Suddenly, the young man realizes the contradiction and asks if a normal scholar wouldn't tell him not to act like a scoundrel. With a mischievous smile, Cheon says there's nothing better than being able to act like a scoundrel when necessary. He explains that there are many things in this world that cannot be solved by just being a hero. Mu Baek is shocked by the depth of his master's words and looks at him with admiration. He then wonders if this is the mentality that allowed him to clash with the elders of the Murim Alliance. The young man runs towards Cheon and asks him to check his pulse before he leaves. He catches up to him on the stairs and begs him to help with his condition. The young master explains he's on his way to meet Lady Zhang and feels something is wrong with his body. The scholar teases him and says Lady Zhang has a difficult atmosphere around her. He thinks this works out well, as he was curious about how much the Wuku star's energy had grown. With his student's wrist in his hands, he begins to check his energy with concentration. A bright green aura emanates from the young master as Cheon analyzes his condition. The tutor realizes the energy of the 7 stars has become quite dense in his body. With a determined look, he thinks he just needs a little more to be able to absorb it. He then reveals that absorbing the energy of the 7 stars doesn't just mean prolonging his life. He reveals that the energy of the 7 stars combines with the heavenly martial body and manifests as new abilities. With a mischievous smile, he thinks that if Mu Baek's energy comes to him, it will become a new skill. The young master then asks where he is sick and if he should slow his heartbeat. The scene then shifts to a dark night with a full moon shining over the mountains and an isolated cabin. Suddenly, the cabin door bursts open, and a group of cloaked figures invades the place. The white-haired woman shouts for guards and asks who did this to her men. One of her followers asks if the glacial holy body is safe after the attack. With an angry expression, the woman leads her group to the cave to check the situation. She is shocked to see the ice crystal completely shattered and empty. With wide eyes, she screams that the glacial holy body has disappeared and wonders how this happened. The woman can't believe what she's seeing and wonders how the crystal could have been broken. She then turns to her follower and asks if she has ever heard of the glacial holy body awakening on its own. The third guardian replies that nowhere in the palace records is there any mention of such a thing. With a furious expression, the woman orders her men to search the surroundings thoroughly. Suddenly, she turns and realizes someone is there, watching the scene from a distance. Her follower draws her sword and shouts, asking who is there, ready for combat. A mysterious figure with a torch in hand appears at the top of the cave, illuminating the place. She then says, "So this is where the young master hid the glacial holy body." The white-haired woman is surprised to recognize Elder Yu and asks what she's doing there. She then accuses her of coming to take her life, just as she did to the palace master. Elder Yu says it was an unavoidable choice, and that the young master knows this very well. She explains that the ice palace has always been managed by the master and the elders together. But the palace master made the mistake of trying to eliminate the elders' faction, and they just responded. The white-haired woman accuses her of bringing in the blood cult and asks if the palace has improved because of it. The two groups face each other in the cave, with tension rising every second. The elder then demands that she hand over the glacial holy body without hesitation. She says the glacial holy body belongs to the ice palace and not to her individually. The young mistress looks at her angrily and asks if she plans to offer it to the blood cult as well. The elder and her followers prepare for battle, ready to take what they want by force. She then says the blood cult will serve as a stepping stone for them to enter the Jingyu. The elder reminds her that she doesn't have much time left to live and asks if she has found someone to extend it. She then wonders how long they must live burdened by such a cruel fate. The white-haired woman and her follower watch the elder with serious expressions. The elder declares that they must go to the Jingyu and overcome their fate, turning the palace into a pillar of the Murim. But the young mistress shouts no, and that the palace only has value when it remains in the North Sea. With a furious look, she refuses to follow the elder's plans for the palace's future. The elder accuses her of having an even more archaic way of thinking than the previous palace master. She then says that for the sake of their disciples, even if they have to take her life, they will enter the Murim. With a furious shout, she demands that the young mistress hand over the glacial holy body immediately. The elder unleashes an explosion of blue energy, preparing for a devastating attack. The wave of blue energy spreads through the cave with overwhelming power. The white-haired woman and her followers are caught in the explosion of energy. Their reflections are seen in the ice fragments that fly through the air after the attack. The elder is surprised and wonders what those ice crystal fragments are. The young mistress accuses her of having melted the glacial holy body with her attack. She glares at her with an expression of pure rage and disbelief at the situation. The white-haired woman then reveals that the glacial holy body awakened on its own and disappeared. The elder is shocked and says that's absurd and can't be true. She runs toward the broken crystal and can't believe the glacial holy body could have awakened on its own. The elder examines the crystal and wonders how it could have awakened by itself. She then looks at the remains of the crystal and wonders if it really melted from the inside out. The young mistress says they were just trying to understand the situation when the elder arrived. The elder gets angry and asks why on earth she brought the glacial holy body to this place. The white-haired woman accuses her of being the culprit and asks if she thought about the disaster if it falls into the cult's hands. The elder shouts that she wouldn't hand over the glacial holy body to the cult, and that it's a misunderstanding. She then says that now they need to find the glacial holy body as quickly as possible. The elder orders her men to search around the mountain fortress for the glacial holy body. Her followers reply yes, and prepare to start the search immediately. The young mistress then tells her follower that they also need to mobilize all available personnel. With a look, she says they can't be slower than the elder, and that they need to find it first. In a restaurant, a steaming ball of noodles waits to be eaten. Qian is sitting alone at a table, enjoying his meal calmly and peacefully. He comments that the broth has become more refreshing, and the salty flavor has improved, making the food delicious. The restaurant owner appears and thanks the scholar, saying the number of customers has doubled. The tutor smiles and says he flatters him, but wonders where his noodles are. Suddenly, he realizes his ball is empty and wonders where his food went. He then looks around and sees a small, mysterious figure hiding behind a column. The figure is revealed to be a young, white-haired girl, voraciously eating his bowl of noodles. Qian clears his throat with his arms crossed and wonders who this cheeky kid could be. Bake appears and wonders where the girl went after stealing his master's food. The girl then scarfs down our hero's noodles with an impressive appetite. Qian wonders just what kind of starved kid she is. He then gets the little girl's attention, and she jumps, her mouth stuffed with food. Despite that, she seems to be really enjoying the meal and smiles, completely satisfied. Seeing how hungry she is, our boy decides to order 2 more bowls of noodles. Soon, a fresh, steaming ball is placed in front of him. However, he barely gets a bite in before the girl is already showing him her empty bowl, asking for more. To prove it's all gone, she flips the bowl over on her own head. Faced with such an odd scene, our protagonist is left completely speechless. With a messy mouth, she asks for her benefactor's name. He introduces himself as Chiante-san, and the girl says the name suits him. She then comments that the food seems to have astragalus and goji berries in it. Our hero is shocked, as she nailed the dish's secret ingredients. Qian then asks for her name, but the girl can't remember a thing. Our protagonist stares at her for a moment, trying to make sense of the situation. with a gentle smile. He says he understands and pats her on the head, but the girl's expression suddenly twists into one of pure fury. She yells that you should never touch a woman's head without permission. Then she adds that's just what someone once told her, striking a weird pose. Our boy then reflects that she is definitely not your average kid. The girl then says she can't remember anything about herself, but she knows about other stuff. Then she points to her own head with a very serious look. Annoyed, she stomps her feet on the ground and yells that she really doesn't know anything. Right after, she smiles, thanks him for the food, and says she's gotta go. Our hero is confused, wondering if she's just going to up and leave like that. So Chien asks if she has a place to stay, and the girl looks at him surprised. With a strange smile, she says that a man invited her to go with him. She thanks him again and leaves, while our protagonist watches her go. The owner of the place approaches, worried, and asks if it's a good idea to let her go. He says there are rumors of kidnappers selling kids in the region. Outside, a suspicious man approaches the girl, who was walking alone. The man then grabs her wrist tightly, but the little girl refuses to go. She even complains that he stinks and angrily tries to pull away. With a disgusting grin, the man threatens to hurt her if she keeps resisting. Our hero then appears and asks why they don't just let her go. The kidnapper gets angry and tells the scholar to mind his own business. Chien replies that the world's really gone down the drain when people are snatching kids in broad daylight. The man denies everything and says he was just trying to help a poor orphan on the street. Now there are two men surrounding the girl as Chien observes the scene. Our hero then says that the orphan is actually his younger sister. The kidnapper doubts him and calls him a bold-faced liar, but the girl plays along and calls our hero Big Brother. The men then get ticked off and decide to rough him up for sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. One of the goons rushes forward to try and punch our protagonist. However, Chien dodges his punch with impressive ease. Right after, he takes the man down, who face plants right on the ground. Seeing this, the leader of the thugs tells all his men to attack at once. Suddenly, a man appears and asks what all this racket is about. He seems to know the thugs and scolds them for being on the northern border. The man then recognizes our hero and asks what he's doing there. Chien explains that the guys tried to kidnap his sister and a fight broke out. The newcomer is surprised to hear what the thugs did. Furious, he says he's punished them before, and now they're kidnapping people. The leader of the thugs doesn't like being told off and orders his goons to attack. The man then gets ready to show them the true fury of the North. Without any trouble, he single-handedly takes down all the kidnappers. After the commotion, our hero and the girl are safe in the courtyard. Our protagonist thinks that the girl has now become quite the dilemma for him. He notices that even in simple clothes, her beauty can't be hidden. Chien then realizes it's far too dangerous to leave her on her own. Our hero then stops walking and looks at the little girl. He crouches down a bit to be at her eye level. Chien then asks if she wants to stick with him until she gets her memory back. With a smile, she accepts because he doesn't stink like that other guy. Our protagonist finds her honesty important and smiles back. He then says that from now on, the deal between them is sealed. For all intents and purposes, he will be her older cousin, and she will be his younger cousin named Chien Yan Seal. The girl really likes the name he chose for her. As they walk, Yan Seal asks if she can hold his hand. Our hero agrees with a gentle smile on his face. As soon as he takes her hand, he notices something very strange. Yan Seal's hand is ice cold, and he realizes she needs some kind of medicine. Our boy then tells her she's like a sister to him, but he makes the mistake of touching her head again. Angrily, she prepares to attack, but he quickly apologizes. Meanwhile, the pair is being watched by a mysterious figure. The woman from the Ice Palace doesn't understand their relationship. She wonders if the glacial sacred body has no survival instinct. Her servant thinks she only has the memories of a child and followed him out of kindness. The servant suggests they kidnap the girl at the right moment, but the master of the Ice Palace refuses, as the blood cult is also looking for her. She explains that they are in Hefei searching for the glacial sacred body. For now, the Namgan clan is the safest place for the girl. Meanwhile, our hero and Yan Seal seem to be getting along very well. Her servant then asks if they shouldn't just take the glacial sacred body. The master says she's thought about it a lot, but there's no safer place in Hefei. Therefore, the fact that she's with the Namdan clan is an advantage for them. She then observes the clan's imposing fortress from a distance. Furthermore, she remembers that Elder Yu and the cults are also on the hunt. The entire city of Hefei has become a true whirlwind of events. Her biggest worry is Elder Yu, who can sense the girl's energy. The servant worries it's only a matter of time before the elder finds her. The master then reveals they need to use a special item to prevent that. Her follower recognizes the purified ice crystal on the table. With the crystal's energy, they can deceive Elder Yu and buy some time. But the servant is worried, as her master cannot absorb the sun's energy. The master of the ice palace knows that using the crystal will shorten her life. The servant becomes frantic and asks what she's talking about. She then says her duty is to protect her master at all costs. The master of the ice palace then tells her servant to stop worrying. She fears the cults will invade the clan and steal the girl that very night. This possibility leaves her follower completely shocked and speechless. The servant then apologizes and says she will prepare a fake body to deceive them. As the young woman leaves, the master thanks her for her loyalty and care. The scene then takes us to Cheon, Tae-san's new residence in the Namgan clan. Yaon Sale is amazed by the size of the house and runs around excitedly. She even rolls on the floor, overjoyed with her new home. Cheon's servants watch the girl, not understanding what's going on. The servant Bin Bai then approaches and asks our hero who the girl is. He introduces her as his cousin who was in an accident and lost her memory. Our boy asks them to treat her well, even if she seems a little odd. Meanwhile, Yan Sil lies on the floor and says how nice the place is. Bin Bai comments that the young lady is beautiful and will capture many hearts in the future. Chin then asks her to help Yan Sil take a bath and buy some clothes. The servants remind him that he doesn't have to pay for anything, being part of the clan. Bin Bai gets excited because the elder ordered them to fulfill his every wish. Our protagonist then tells her to keep the money for whatever she needs. Later, our hero and Yaon Sel sit together in the courtyard to relax. The girl looks very happy and excited in her new clothes and with her new life. With a smile, Yaon Sel says she really likes it there and that the place smells good. Our hero is happy to see her so cheerful after everything. Next, he asks for the girl's hand so he can check her pulse. As he injects his spiritual energy, he notices her hand is very cold. Suddenly, the energy flows in a completely wild and uncontrolled way. Our protagonist then wonders if she might not have any meridians at all. The energy then simply vanishes inside the girl's body without a trace. Chien then pulls his hand away, realizing that's not it at all. He understands that her meridians are so wide that he can't feel them, because if they're that massive, not even his energy can detect them. The girl then glows with a powerful aura and smiles innocently. He finally understands that she possesses the legendary heavenly immortal meridian. This is a constitution that appears only once every 1,000 years, something that can only be achieved by those who ascend to the status of an immortal. Our hero then concludes that this is something that should only exist in theory. The only explanation is that she was artificially created by someone. He then wonders if an evil organization could have done this, because if that's true, she could become a disaster for the martial world. The girl senses the tension and asks her, "Brother, what happened?" Chien plays it cool and says he's going to prepare some medicine for her cold body. Our hero then asks the girl not to wander off, as he has to speak with the elder. He thinks that if it really is the heavenly immortal meridian, the girl is incredibly special, because with this constitution, she gets stronger just by breathing. This means her internal strength will accumulate naturally, which is just absurd. Soon, our protagonist heads to the Hall of Elders of the Namgan clan. Arriving there, he finds two men who greet him respectfully. The elder invites him in and says he was planning to meet with him alone. However, since a mutual acquaintance of theirs arrived, he called them both at once. The man then turns and greets our hero in a very condescending way. Chien recognizes him as Ku Jinha, a rival who bugged him in the past. Our protagonist then asks what that guy is doing there. Ku Jinha, with an air of superiority, reveals his new position as vice supervisor. Chien realizes the rumor about him being the grandson of the Murim Alliance elder is true. The guy thinks he's superior and wants to speak informally with our hero, but our protagonist cuts him off, saying they aren't in the Murim Alliance right now, and that it's rude to treat someone on temporary assignment with disdain. Koo Jin-hee gets angry and yells about respecting the chain of command. However, the elder steps in and scolds him for shouting at his guest of honor. The man is startled by the rebuke and immediately apologizes. He bows and admits he acted recklessly in front of the elder. The elder then turns to Koo Jin-ha, who is still bowing before him. In a serious tone, he tells the young man to stop picking fights and get to the point. Koo Jin-ha then reports that the blood and demonic cults are very active. He adds with a sly look that they seem to be searching for something. To the elder's shock, Koo Jin-ha reveals that their destination is the city of Hefei. Hearing this, our hero tenses up because he knows exactly what they're looking for. Our hero then asks about the cults, and Koo Jin-ha wants to know why the Murim Alliance doesn't just handle it. Our boy questions why the audit department is even involved in this kind of mess. Koo Jin-ha turns to Chien and calls him Scholar Hong. With a mocking look, he asks if our hero is scared of the cults, little pawns. He goes on, saying that a simple scholar like him wouldn't understand the situation, and he even brags, saying that he's now working alongside the White Tiger squad. Koo Jin-ha laughs mockingly and says that, either way, Chien is no longer a junior supervisor. Seeing our boy's silence, his rival thinks he's finally made him understand his place. In his mind, he believes he's successfully intimidated our MC with his words. Suddenly, the elder slams his hand on the table and calls out for Scholar Shion, surprising everyone. He walks over, saying it's been a long time, and that Chien only came by to say hello. Koo Jin-ha is in shock because the elder greeted our hero first and in such a friendly way. He wonders what in the world is going on here, because the elder of the Namdan clan, who honors all warriors, is talking to him like an old friend. Koo Jin-ha gets annoyed because even he, with his higher rank, has to choose his words carefully. The elder continues, saying he'd like to see our hero around here more often. With a smile, Chien replies that he has other business but promises to visit more. Before leaving, he turns to Koo Jin-ha and calls him Junior Supervisor. With a wicked grin, our protagonist says his goodbyes, telling him they'll see each other soon, and so Koo Jin-ha is left behind, absolutely furious and humiliated by the whole situation. Leaving the room, our hero complains that because of that little pest, he couldn't have a proper conversation with the elder. He then reflects that the blood and demon cults are searching for something valuable and wonders if they're after that. And then it hits him. He remembers the girl in her celestial immortal meridian. Just as he thought, he concludes that he needs to hide Yan Seal to keep her away from prying eyes. Suddenly, a fight breaks out with a red-headed young master yelling at Yan Seal about formalities. The guy confronts her, saying that even if she is Chien's cousin, she can't just treat him so informally. Our protagonist watches the scene as the redhead complains that the girl is an obnoxious brat and wonders how Chien could have a cousin like her. Yan Seal then bites the guy's arm hard, who screams, asking if they're even related because she has no manners. Chien just watches the scene calmly with his fan, not getting involved in their squabble. He then steps away and explains that the girl has lost her memory, asking the young master to show a little understanding. The redhead then tells Yan Seal to apologize, since he treats her older brothers so well. The girl gets suspicious and asks if it's true that this guy treats our hero well. She then bows and apologizes, saying that because she's young, she didn't realize how amazing he was, but it was all a trick as she attacks him right after, screaming that he wanted to fool her to hurt her brother. The guy is shocked by the little girl's strength as she holds him by the head with ease. A servant arrives with tea and snacks, but finds the young master being attacked. He gets a headache and wonders if it's because he hasn't slept in the last few days, while Yan Seal makes a run for it. Later, our hero finds the young master, who looks totally wiped, and asks how the meeting with the girl went. The guy tells him not to even ask, because she wasn't in the herb room, and the weirdest part is that all the medical servants had also vanished, as if the infirmary had been completely abandoned. Our protagonist asks if there was really no one at the location, He then thinks that the Hall of 100 Herbs, closing down right after Yan Seal's appearance, is way too suspicious. Although he doesn't know for sure what the cults are looking for, he worries it might be her and wonders if he'll be able to protect her. After all, empty-handed, our boy can only handle second-rate fighters. He questions if the only option is to hide her well, unless he can boost his internal energy. Frustrated with the situation, he lets out a long sigh. The young master then asks what he's thinking about, but our hero plays it off. However, the redhead insists, saying he's ready to listen to his worries. Our protagonist then changes the subject and asks if the young master's head hurts. The guy explains that ever since his last duel, his chest has felt tight, and something seems to be blocked. Our boy gets excited and says, "Talk about perfect timing." The young master is completely confused by his reaction. Cheon then explains that it's a good thing he noticed before it was too late, because the star's energy has matured. With a sly grin, our hero says he's going to take that energy right now. The redhead asks why he's so happy, and Cheon tells him not to worry, as he's handled this kind of thing before. The scene then shifts to our protagonist's residence. There, the young master sits down to meditate with Cheon right behind him. The guy focuses while our hero prepares for the procedure. Finally, Cheon places a hand on his back, and a green energy starts to glow. With a devilish grin, our hero absorbs the young master's energy, and the green energy flows directly into his hand. Mubake then feels invigorated, as his head is clear and the fog has lifted. He then leaps to his feet, unable to contain his excitement, and he runs off to train, saying he's going to seek some enlightenment. Our protagonist finds it amusing and thinks that, despite everything, Mubake is always sincere when it comes to martial arts. Now alone, the spiritual energy he absorbed from Pang So-won intertwines with the new star energy from Namgun Mubake. Our boy then thinks that this is exactly as he read in the secret teachings, because the spiritual energy of the 7 stars grants new abilities to the celestial body. The first was the Void Palm, which took him a while to master, but he feels the second one will be easier since his body already knows how to react. Suddenly, he feels a new life force pulsing inside him. This is his new strength, and he's eager to test it out right now. Our hero then stands up and gets ready for the test. He approaches a giant boulder that was in the room, and he places his hand on it to feel its size and weight. He then calculates that a rock this size would need 3 or 4 warriors to move, but he wonders what would happen if he used his new life force ability. He then focuses on the rock, ready to discover the power of his new skill. Our hero then focuses and uses his new ability on the stone. A green energy emanates from him, and he believes he can move the rock at least a little. To his surprise, the giant boulder begins to levitate in the air with ease. Our boy's jaw drops as he lifts the rock without any effort. He didn't expect it to be so easy and wonders if this strength is enough for pulling weeds. With this new ability and a wicked smile, he wonders what would happen if he got a sword in his hands. And he continues testing his strength, lifting the rock as if it were nothing. He finally understands why they say that mastering the 7 primordial energies makes a person almost indistinguishable from a divine immortal, because even with just 2 primordial energies, the increase in his strength is clearly visible. This is the power that can only be summoned by the wielder of the celestial martial Bodhi. Our protagonist then becomes thoughtful with this discovery, and he wonders if this means he's the only one who can control the 7 stars. He then rushes to the courtyard to test his new strength in motion. With his sword, he creates several energy slashes in the air with impressive speed. A wave of blue energy surrounds him. As he tests the limits of his new power, he realizes that by just increasing the rotation speed of the primordial energy, his power is already through the roof. With a satisfied smile, he holds his sword, which now glows with a new light. He then reflects that a heavy sword is slow and a fast one lacks power, but it has both. Our hero then realizes that the more he accelerates the rotation of the primordial energy, the more his power and speed increase exponentially. He then decides to test his new ability to its absolute limit, and he wonders what would happen if he used it with the limitless celestial sword technique. A wave of blue energy engulfs him as he executes the technique with perfection. Suddenly, he sees the image of a blue dragon behind him. He's shocked because even though it's a faint image, he can see it clearly. The description in the manual wasn't an exaggeration after all. It's just that until now, no one had managed to combine both strength and speed at the same time. The dragon roars majestically as our hero stares at it, impressed. Suddenly, the dragon's image vanishes, and he's left confused. He then spots Yanseal in the courtyard, copying the blue dragon's movements. The dragon's energy transforms into cherry blossoms around her. Our protagonist watches the scene, fascinated by what he's seeing. Natural energy begins to gather around the girl, who continues to practice the movements with a gardening tool. Our hero wonders if this is her innate ability, the gift of the celestial immortal Meridian. The girl then executes the movements with impressive grace and power. She creates pink energy slashes in the air with the gardening tool. Our protagonist is shocked because she's using the limitless celestial sword technique. Yanseal then asks our hero if she should move the force to the left, because when she moves it to the right, something just shoots out of her hand. The energy then slices a flower in the garden with impressive precision. Our protagonist just watches the scene in silence. The girl then gets confused by what happened and wonders what she did wrong. She then decides to try moving the force to the left again. Our hero yells for her to stop as she executes the movements with incredible speed. He then crouches down in front of her and observes her closely. Our protagonist thinks that he was born with the celestial martial body and has incredible skills, but her gift surpasses all of his talent because she skips the entire interpretation process and learns just by watching him. An astounding talent. He approaches her, still in shock from what he just witnessed. He then realizes that if the great schools and the 5 noble clans find out about her, the demonic cults will want to implant their demonic and dark arts into her. And if she masters those arts, an absolute ruler of evil will be born, one that no mortal under the heavens could even imagine. Our hero then takes the tool from her hand with a serious expression. He then makes a promise to Yanseal that she will never play with sticks in front of other people again. But in exchange, he promises to buy her noodles every single day. The girl gets excited at the idea of eating noodles every day and accepts immediately. Our hero then invites her to play with the sticks together in his room. Yanseal is overjoyed and celebrates that her big brother is going to play with her. Our protagonist thinks that her incredible abilities awaken his scholarly curiosity. He wonders if she'll be able to blossom like the plum blossoms. He then remembers studying the 5 forms of the plum blossom sword in the Murim archives. But what she did so effortlessly is something only the masters of the Mount Hoa sect can achieve. Our protagonist is floored by the girl's natural talent. Yanseal then says that the scent the dance leaves behind is really nice. She then gets closer to him and asks if there's anything else. Our hero laughs and wonders where in the world she came from. The girl gets confused and asks about herself. She then starts to think and remembers that the first thing she saw was when she opened her eyes in a cave, and she was surrounded by something white and cold. Our protagonist is startled and asks if she came out of ice. He is completely shocked, as he can't understand how a human could come out of ice. Suddenly, it clicks, and he realizes she is the sacred ice body from the Northern Sea Ice Palace. He then watches the girl practicing the movements with a wooden sword, and he wonders if Yanseal really is the sacred ice body. If that's the case, then only the big shots of the Murim world, like the 9 great schools and the 5 noble clans, know of her existence, and our hero wonders how, with that kind of status, she ended up with him of all people. With his fan in hand, he just watches the girl from a distance. After so much training, Yanseal ends up falling asleep on our protagonist's lap. He then thinks that he took her in out of pity, but discovered she has an incredible talent. Our boy wonders if she got so tired from using her natural energy, and he comes to the conclusion that a child with such an absurd talent will never have a normal life. With that in mind, our hero seems to make an important decision for her future. He then admits to himself that he's not sure if he can protect her all by himself. After all, he only sought the power of the 7 stars to extend his own life, because his original plan was just to live quietly as a simple scholar. Suddenly, Yanseal stirs in her sleep and ends up grabbing onto our boy's clothes. She even murmurs in her sleep that Big Brother is delicious, probably dreaming about some food. Our hero then fills with determination and decides he won't hand her over to anyone who asks for her, even if she's a child who could cause a major catastrophe in the future. It seems that to protect her, our protagonist will have to use the full power of his celestial martial body. The scene opens in a peaceful garden where a few flowers are blooming under the sunlight. Next, we see the young, white-haired girl the hero took in, who seems to be practicing something. Suddenly, the girl stops and looks back suspiciously as a mysterious shadow appears in the background. The figure is then revealed to be the clan's patriarch, who stares at her with a serious expression. With a mischievous smile, the young girl isn't intimidated and looks ready for some trouble. The clan leader then approaches and asks who she is, as he's never seen her around before. But the fearless little girl calls him an old man and asks who he thinks he is. The man is surprised by her boldness, but is amused and reveals he's the owner of this place. In a panic, the girl shouts, thinking he's come to collect rent from her older brother. The patriarch is confused and asks who this brother is, and she shouts our hero's name. At this, the man understands the situation but finds it odd, as he didn't know the scholar had a sister. The young girl then introduces herself as Yan Seol and asks for the old man's name. With that, the clan leader formally introduces himself as Namgunhak. The little girl is shocked to hear the name and asks if he's the strongest old man there is. The man laughs at the compliment and modestly replies that there are more powerful people than him. Just then, the protagonist arrives with an acquaintance who asks the patriarch what he's doing there. The newcomer explains that he was going to see the scholar, but got distracted talking with the young lady. The hero then apologizes and says she's his cousin who lost her memory in an accident. The man puts his arm around her and comments that you can't tell what she's been through. He says the trauma was so bad she forgot her manners, while the young girl looks irritated. The patriarch laughs and says he found the conversation pleasant because she reminds him of his children. With a smile, he comments that looking at the little girl reminds him of young Mu Bake. The acquaintance then sends her to her room, saying there are dumplings there, and the young girl gets excited. With that, the little girl runs off happily, shouting that she wants to eat the dumplings. The clan leader laughs out loud and comments that he's never seen a girl as charming as her. Now inside the room, the young girl devours the food, while the man watches her with a smile. Next, the little girl kneels before him as a sign of respect, and he points to the paintings. Outside, the patriarch watches the sunset with a serious and thoughtful expression. Meanwhile, Mu Bake is training intensely and doesn't even notice his master's presence. The clan leader thinks it's good that the young man is so focused and decides to watch his progress. The young master executes the sword movements with impressive speed and concentration. He then unleashes a powerful wave of green energy from his sword with a swift strike. The energy surges forward with incredible force and converges on a single point in front of him. The patriarch notices that his son's movements have become much more fluid and precise. The young man continues his training with spins, creating a whirlwind of energy around him. The energy then takes the form of ghostly hands that move at his will. The clan leader is shocked because his son is combining the celestial sword with 3 palms. The man then realizes this is the 6th form, the twin dragons that crush mountains. With a confident smile, the young master finishes his move and says he's ready. The young man's eyes shine with a new determination and power after his intense training. The young master unleashes his attack and surprises his father, who is enveloped in green energy. With that, the powerful blast of energy hits the roof with a great impact. Shocked, the young man calls out for his father, worried about what he's just done. But the patriarch appears behind him and praises his growth in such a short time. With a confident look, the clan leader asks if he thought an attack like that would hit him. He then asks how he achieved such an advancement, and the young man credits it all to the scholar. In a flashback, he explains that he interpreted the twin dragons, the crush mountains technique, but his internal energy wasn't connecting, and that's when the tutor gave him some crucial advice. The hero advised him to use his right hand for the boundless celestial sword, and his left hand for the 3 palms, which left the patriarch completely shocked. The clan leader realized the scholar understood the essence of the technique and praised his insight. With his hand on his chin, the man becomes thoughtful, processing the tutor's genius. The young master then asks his father if there's any problem with his advancement. The patriarch replies no and says that he seems to have already mastered the intermediate level. But he warns that for the next stages, theory alone won't be enough. The young man repeats his father's words with a determined look, thinking about what's to come. The scene changes to an official reporting that demonic cults are active in the region. The clan's demon subjugation squad has already started hunting them, and Baek will be joining them. Meanwhile, the hero wonders if it wouldn't be safer to teach the girl martial arts. The scene then cuts to the scholar and his cousin in a forest clearing. In a clearing, our hero and the little girl are together while she eats a snack. The scholar then approaches and asks if she remembers the dance he taught her. With a serious expression, he asks her to concentrate and recall what he said about it. Still eating, the young girl replies that it's a secret dance so other people don't catch her. He then pinches her cheeks and asks if she should show it to others, and she shouts no. With a smile, the young man agrees, saying that's exactly why she can't show it to anyone. Suddenly, we see someone's feet land hard on the ground, kicking up a bit of dust. The scholar then leaps onto a tree branch, and the girl watches him from below. From up there, with a smile, he challenges her to show him the dance she learned. With her mouth still full of food, the little girl agrees and gets ready to show off her skill. She then performs the boundless celestial sword, moving with impressive speed. This is one of the 10 great sword arts, and the girl with no memory has mastered it perfectly. The young girl circulates her natural Kwai, surpassing decades of training, and raises the gleaming sword. Just like her, the hero also uses his spiritual energy to reveal the sword art. In just a few days, they reached a level a master wouldn't achieve in a lifetime of training. With this, the scholar thinks that if he focuses, he can become #1 in the world. The little girl then stops for a moment and gets into a combat stance with her wooden sword. But suddenly, our hero is struck on the head in a surprise attack from behind. A mysterious figure appears with glowing eyes and a sword that emanates a powerful energy. At this, the attacker fires a beam of energy that shoots across the clearing and hits a boulder. The little girl stands confused in the middle of the clearing, not understanding what just happened. With that, our hero approaches and says he warned her to be more careful. The boulder that was hit by the energy beam is now in pieces scattered across the ground. He explains that if she leaves a trail, bad people might find them, and the girl gets furious. The scholar then invites her to eat noodles, and she excitedly accepts, asking for dumplings too. They then go on their way, talking about her love for dumplings. The scene changes to night, and we see figures moving silently across the rooftops. Someone uses the 9 phantoms of the underworld steps technique to move unnoticed. It's revealed to be the protagonist, using an art he found in the Murim Alliance library. He explains that this technique manifests a ghostly ki and was once used to spread terror. Because it's similar to spiritual energy, the scholar thinks it's a perfect match for him. He then sneaks into a location and confirms that Lady Jian is not at the clinic. As Master Namgun said, our hero finds the whole situation extremely suspicious and remains on high alert. He decides he needs to uncover her true identity and starts looking for clues. Suddenly, he hears a noise and turns around, startled, realizing he's no longer alone. 2 men are carrying an unconscious girl and rushing to flee the scene. They tell the young lady to hang in there, while the scholar watches everything from the shadows. Moments later, the 2 men are seen on the ground, completely defeated. A warrior is shocked to see the scene and didn't expect the blood cult to act so quickly. A white-haired woman then recognizes the 3rd guardian, Iwan, next to another girl. The white-haired woman comments that the other girl passed out from exhaustion. At this, the warrior approaches and informs his mistress that her wound has opened up again. We see a large cut on the woman's leg, and she says the bleeding won't stop. She then orders her subordinate to take the other girl and get out of there as fast as possible. But the warrior becomes desperate and asks what she's saying, as he won't abandon her. In her thoughts, she reveals that her time is running out and that the blood cult is after them. Desperate, the man shouts that she needs to save herself and can't give up like this. With that, he promises he'll find the solar body and asks her not to talk about it anymore. The woman then says the priority is to find the sacred ice body in the Namgan clan. She explains they gave a crystal to Iwon to protect the body, but if she's caught, they'll know about the deception. From the shadows, our hero realizes they knew about Yancel and created a decoy to protect her. He then deduces that Lady John is actually from the North Sea Ice Palace. At that moment, a shadowy figure appears before the two injured warriors on the ground. The warrior and the white-haired woman are shocked to see the figure approaching. The man then removes his mask and reveals himself to be the scholar Qian, leaving them stunned. The woman and her subordinate get up, startled, and ask if he heard their whole conversation. With a simple nod, our protagonist confirms he heard every word. She's impressed, as she didn't sense his presence, and says the rumors about him are true. A blue aura surrounds him as she calls him the secret weapon of the Murim alliance. With a serious look, she says he must be a master who surpasses the first-class level. The warrior is shocked and gulps in the face of this revelation about the scholar's power. The white-haired woman agrees and says she knows he's already protecting the ice body. With that, she asks him to take the other girl with him, as it's the only way to protect her. But our hero refuses the offer, leaving the woman surprised and confused by his attitude. She then pressures him, saying the enemies will arrive at any moment, and he needs to flee. The scholar reveals they've already arrived, and that he'll take care of everything himself. At this, the warrior draws his sword and shouts that it's impossible for him to do it alone. Suddenly, members of the blood cult emerge from the shadows, ready to attack. One of the enemies stares at our hero with red eyes, showing he's a master. The white-haired woman watches the scene with a serious and worried expression. Her subordinate also faces the enemies with a tense look, prepared to fight. The scholar notices that besides the masters, there are also top-level experts in the group. The hero smiles and insists he can't grant her request right now because he has other plans. She warns him again that the enemies are coming and that he needs to take Iwon and run. But he calmly points out that it's already too late and that he will resolve the problem himself. The warrior draws his sword again and shouts that this is an impossible task for just one man. The blood cult members appear in greater numbers, ready for battle. The protagonist faces the red eyes of the first-class masters without showing any fear. The white-haired woman prepares to fight alongside her subordinate. The loyal warrior also gets in position to defend his mistress at all costs. Our hero then faces the blood cult members, who are high-level experts. He calmly walks toward the enemies and asks if this is their hideout. The white-haired woman is furious with his audacity and doesn't understand his attitude. Suddenly, a new enemy appears and introduces himself as the young master of the palace. At this, the woman questions him, asking why the blood cult wants the sacred ice body. With a sinister smile, the man replies that she's asking something she already knows. He explains that the sacred ice body is a perfect vessel that grants power over the world. A desolate landscape appears, as he says the rumors about it are not for nothing. If the wielder learns their martial arts, she will become a powerful and invincible weapon. Our hero then concludes that she will become the perfect weapon for the blood cult. At this, the cult leader asks who the intruder is who dares to interfere with his plans. The scholar calmly replies that he's just a scholar who came to be treated for an illness. The man is furious with his audacity and wonders how a mere scholar dares to speak like that. He then orders his men to bring him over immediately, and they advance to attack. The warrior and the white-haired woman become desperate seeing the scholar in danger. He helps her up and says they need to take care of her injuries first. But she insists they need to help the scholar, as he won't be able to win on his own. Suddenly, a giant demonic hand attacks the two warriors, who are shocked. The cult leader is surprised to see his attack being interrupted by someone. Our hero holds one of the enemies by the neck and stares him down with a defiant look. With a confident smile, he easily twists the enemy's wrist. The man then falls to the ground, defeated, while the others watch the scene in shock. The cult members charge forward furiously to avenge their fallen comrade. One of them attacks with a sword, but the scholar dodges with a quick move. Our hero then gathers golden energy in his hand and prepares to counterattack. With a precise strike, he hits the enemy's chest with devastating force. The man cries out from the impact and is thrown back, spitting up. Another enemy tries to attack him from above, but the scholar is ready to defend himself. His eyes glow with a golden light as he prepares to show his true power. With a quick move, he dodges the sword and prepares for the next strike. He then unleashes a powerful flaming kick that hits the enemy head on. The man cries out as he's hit and is sent flying away, his body covered in flames. Our hero's eyes glow with a golden aura as he continues to fight. The cult leader is shocked to recognize the great strength diamond palm of Shaolin. With a look of pure hatred, the cult leader glares at the scholar with contempt. Another enemy with sharp claws lunges forward to attack our hero without hesitation. He launches his claws like projectiles toward the protagonist, who prepares to defend himself. Calmly, the scholar opens his fan and gets ready to show his technique. He skillfully spins the fan, creating a whirlwind of energy that blocks the attacks. The hero then uses his fan to launch a powerful blast of energy at the enemy. The cult leader is in shock as he recognizes the technique and wonders if it's the fan of Kunlun. At this, a powerful blast of blue energy cuts through the air and hits one of the cult members. From the impact, the man is thrown backward as the trail of blue energy continues on. With a confident smile, our hero holds the fan he used for the attack. Now, the scholar is standing in the middle of several defeated enemies on the ground. With a smile, the cult leader seems to have understood the whole situation. He then remembers the young man, using the great strength diamond palm of Shaolin, and he also recalls the use of the transparent fan of Kunlun during the fight. From this, he deduces that the young man must be a secret successor trained by the Murim Alliance. Our hero turns around, surprised, and wonders if the accusation is really meant for him. The enemy shouts that it's useless to deny it, and asks how someone can master the arts of both Shaolin and Kunlun. The young man reflects that because he had access to the secret library and studied various arts, his enemy's assumption is quite reasonable and actually makes sense. Holding his fan, he confirms that the cult leader is correct in his assumption. The enemy's eyes widen at the confirmation, and he says that on top of that, there's still more. The scholar draws a sword and reveals that the swordsmanship art he will now use belongs to the Namgan clan, leaving the adversary completely shocked with the revelation. Completely furious, the cult leader calls him an insolent and audacious brat. The scene changes, and our hero questions the woman from the ice palace about how they were found. With a smile, he calls her knave and asks who else could have spread the information. The white-haired woman realizes the Council of Elders is behind everything, and that the ice palace will fall. At this, the cult leader grips the hilt of his sword tightly, emanating a red aura. Our hero is surprised to see a blast of red energy fly past him. The enemy then reveals his sword, which glows with an intense red, and our hero is startled. This is one of the 18 swords of the Red Dragon, a weapon heated by internal energy. The sword art belongs to the Jansen sect and is known for its terrible reputation. Legend says that a student took down his master for this manuscript and joined the blood cult. With a smile, our hero recognizes the famous Red Dragon of Jansen. The adversary asks why he isn't begging for mercy since he's recognized him. The protagonist replies that he doesn't think the enemy is on such a high level. Furious, the cult leader calls him an audacious wretch and bares his teeth in anger. He then flies toward our hero, shouting that he's going to teach him some manners. The scholar's eyes glow with blue energy as he prepares for combat. His hand holding the sword is also enveloped in the same intense blue energy. The two warriors then collide in an epic clash of red and blue energies. The cult leader is shocked by our hero's strength, and his eyes gleam with rage. He notices the scholar seems confused and deduces that it's his first time fighting with spiritual energy. The battle continues with the two trading blows at high speed in the middle of the hall. The enemy wonders who this guy is who can fight on equal footing with him. He realizes that not even the masters of the Namgung clan had swordsmanship at this level. The enemy then wonders if the young man before him is stronger than his elder. Furious, he shouts that it's impossible and refuses to believe that a mere scholar could surpass him. The confrontation continues intensely, with the two trading blows at high speed. Our hero feels his opponent's incredible internal energy as he defends himself. He feels that with every blow, a powerful fire demon is trying to consume him. To defeat his adversary, he realizes he'll have to risk everything he's got. With a determined smile, he prepares to risk it all and win this fight. His sword now glows with a mix of blue and green energy, showing a new power. He then prepares to use the powerful boundless celestial sword. Suddenly, a huge blue energy dragon appears, and he reveals it to be the 8th form. The adversary is completely shocked and breaks into a cold sweat in the face of this immense power. With his eyes glowing, our hero raises his sword to the sky, preparing the final attack. He then names his technique the Dragon and Tiger Tsunami. A huge column of energy descends from the heavens with devastating power. The energy completely envelopes the area, with the protagonist at the center of the attack.